everybody, welcome back to the Dragon Quest VIII discussion. Oh, you're still here. It's been like 3 hours. Good on you. Have a cookie. Anyway, for anybody who are watching this first, this is part 2 of our Dragon Quest VIII discussion. We are going to be talking about severe endgame plot and spoiler territory at the moment, like including and up to the final boss, endings, major plot turns,
post-game,
all of that stuff. So if you clicked on this video first, or if you don't want to hear any of that, I recommend clicking off. If you want to hear the discussion from the beginning, because you missed the first part for whatever reason, there'll be a link in the description. There, we do go into spoilers, but that's after general talk about the gameplay, our opinions on the aesthetics, other things like that. So there's plenty of spoiler-free talk there. So now that the flag is out of the way, let's get back to what we were talking about. So last time we ended
off. Oh, we beat the game. We beat Dual Magus, guys. We were.
This is the shortest part of the discussion ever. Man, why do we even split it up? It's wow.
I know.
So yeah, we beat up Dual Magus. We get the stick back, and like everything's hunky dory, right?
Yeah. For some reason, we decide to go all the way back to Argonia to crash for the night.
Victory tour, you know?
Oh, yeah. We just went to Argonia for the first stop to rub it in Charmles's face. But then we wake up the next morning and Jessica's gone. And I was just gonna like, when I was playing the game, I was like, okay, I'll just let her go. Like, she's probably just going to, like, dig up her brother's grave and, like, sleep with him. But then
we didn't talk about Jessica's creepy relationship with her brother at all.
I think we mentioned it briefly. But
yeah,
anyways,
we'll bring that up in a little bit when it's a little bit more relevant.
And so, okay, so I was like, whatever, Jessica can do what she wants. But then I realized she still had some of our equipment with her. And Trode was like, no, she has the scepter. We need to bring that back. And I was like, all right, old man, we'll go track Jessica down.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I had been spoiled to this plot twist before the game started. I knew what was going on. Well, you looked that up. You were bad.
I accidentally saw a picture of Jessica.
This is why you don't read wikis.
No, that was Google Images.
This is why you don't Google image porn pictures of Jessica. All right? You stick to, like, hentai sites where they're a little bit better about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know that now.
But anyway, so basically, like, you don't really know what's up with Jessica, but, like, people say, oh, she headed towards Arcadia. Again, like, why do they have to have all the names sound so similar? I don't know. So you head towards that way. If you try to go there earlier in the game, these douchebag guardsmen just won't let you past because they're assholes.
But Jessica told them what she thought with a big fireball, and just blasted through the checkpoint. So. Oh,
but it's okay because nobody died. You know, you don't have to worry.
No.
They're just injured. They'll be fine. It's just, you know. So yeah. You go and you get to get to Arcadia, and everybody's really, really nervous because like there's this person who's invading. Oh God, what's his name?
Domenico.
Domenico. What's his last name though?
He doesn't have one. Nobody has.
Oh, he was just Archmage. It was Archmage Domenico.
Yeah,
what he was
there's
called.
This guy Domenico, and he has like the biggest, like most disgusting mansion in the town, and he, like, everyone in the town talks about like how he's a great magician and he's the descendant of one of the sages, and we're like, okay. And then they're saying, like, this crazy lady holding a stick went into his house. And I'm like, oh, I know a crazy lady who ran off with a stick.
And also Jessica.
Yeah. So you go in and you find Jessica's not looking too good.
Yeah, she looks really, really creepy. And, like, she's got the pale skin.
The greenish
like, veins
skin.
everywhere. And
her pigtails
also,
are like frayed and sticking out. It's super cute.
And also both anyway, and also Jessica's voice actress and Dual Magus's voice actor are saying her lines at the same time, which I think is a super cool effect because Dual Magus has a very distinguishing and like very piercing voice, which isn't. It's.
I don't think that's Dual Magus.
It's No, it's definitely Dual Magus' actor. I know it's not supposed to be Dual Magus. I know it's supposed to be what is in the scepter.
Yeah.
I know that that's what's supposed to be his voice, but I just associate it more with Dual Magus because once we do hear what's in the scepter's real voice, it sounds nothing like what we hear for the majority of the game.
It
and
sounds like the small form. But anyways, so yeah, Jessica's there. Jessica's not looking too good. And she appears to be about to kill this guy Domenico, who's there with his like servant dude David. And then then Domenico kind of scares her off, or I think she like we get there and she leaves. She's like, oh, this is a harder job than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm piecing out.
Yeah, so Domenico's an asshole. You hate him. He's not just like, kind of rude and annoying. He is like legitimately a terrible person. The way he treats his David, who like he saved David's life, I believe is what they say. So David's like completely like indebted to him. Like he's like, "Oh, my master's so great." And, again, he's treated I'm like literal garbage by Domenico. But, you don't want Jessica to kill anybody, so you decide that you're going to help him. And so in order to do that, you need to find these jewels in order to make some magic hocus pocus shield. And so where are these jewels? Well, they're on top of Alexandria Tower.
No, well, in the true Dragon Quest VIII fashion, Domenico's like, go get me the crayon spinels. There's some guy near the bar, like in the house next to the bar, who should have them. And you go to the house, and they're like, oh, I don't know where they are. My dad, Rhydon, he's building this crazy tower. He will know where they are. I guess you can go like look for him. So then you go up this insane tower that
well, I really liked Rhydon's tower because it's one of the only dungeons in the game where you have to think 3-dimensionally.
Yeah.
It's like really the only dungeon in the game where you have to think 3-dimensionally now that I think about it. But again, it's like a filler dungeon. It's like, oh, we need a dungeon here. And honestly, like, I didn't find it that interesting because since I didn't want Jessica to fall behind in levels, I skipped a lot of encounters in that area too. Like, I pretty much just fought everything new I saw to make sure that I didn't miss anything for my bestiary. And then I ran past pretty much anything I could avoid other than that. So
you get all the way to the top of this tower, which is like, it's a pretty long dungeon, especially if you're trying to get
at least
all
an
the
hour
stuff.
long.
Yeah. So you get all the way to the top of the tower, you meet Rhydon, and I actually thought it was really funny. He was like, whoa, you made it to the top? I guess I need to keep building. Screw you, dude. And he's like, oh, the crayon spinels? I think they're in some statue in, like, the statue of Alexandra? And I'm like,
and you have to go all the way back and climb up that tower again. Oh my god. It's still the same dungeon.
Still like the
Nothing's
baby
changed.
enemies.
Like, level 5 enemies. You can cast Holy Protection. And it's not even like you can just walk to the top. You still have to do the switch puzzles and go through the fake walls. And it takes like a good 10 minutes to get up there, because you can't just zoom to the top of the tower.
Nope.
And then you have to go out. And it's such, like, the Rhydon's tower, like, okay, fine. Like, needing to get through a dungeon to get the thing to help Domenico, like, that's typical RPG stuff. Like, if they wanted to put a dungeon there, that's fine. But then making us go through Alexandria Tower again for no good reason, with nothing new added. Like, if they had changed the layout of the dungeon somehow, like, I don't know, like maybe a monster knocked it over or something, or new enemies at least invaded it, then maybe it would be
and like, it feels like
better.
The only point of making you go back to the tower was like, wasn't there a scene at the top where the statue like talks to you? And I was
sage.
Like, I don't
It was
care.
the sage there, right? Yeah, it was just like, oh, the blood of the sages runs through Jessica, and we're like,
and Alistair.
Oh, definitely, especially Alistair.
Because
like,
he was the actual heir for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get why Jessica, and even their mother for that matter, why he didn't have to kill all of them. You know, because like Jessica can have kids. Wouldn't that continue the line of the sages?
It's very unclear. Like, you just need to kill whoever happens to be the current heir. Like, we'll see later with the 6th person. Like, that there, and it's not even like it has to be a man, because like there's a male guy and his mother's killed. because she's
Yeah.
the heir. But anyway, so okay, whatever. We had to climb the tower for reasons. Then you go back to Arcadia, and then you get a scene that is very different in the 3DS version. In the 3DS, so Domenico has this awful dog that's like Ted and I both are not dog people. So
Not really, no.
so Domenico has this like giant evil evil looking black dog called Sir Leopold. It's Sir Leopold.
Yeah, you have to make sure you call it Sir
Yep.
Leopold, otherwise Domenico. And now we should mention that there have been a number of changes already for the 3DS version. They actually are not localization changes. Like, you see people complain about things like Bravely Default. They take out they change the costumes. Fire Emblem Fates, they take out petting your waifu's face. And most of the time, those sorts of things, and they did change costumes in the 3DS version. Those were actually done in Japan, though. That was done to keep the age rating down to a Sero A.
Yep.
Which is basically the
so when
E for everyone in the United States.
When the game came out in the original PS2 game came out in Japan, Sero did exist, but the rating system was much more lenient about what you could have in a A-rated game. And in 2016, when they remade the game, they wanted to keep the A rating, so they changed some things to fit in accordance with that. Now, Sero is a lot Sero's a lot more lenient, allows a lot more things to go into an A rating. So it ends up feeling like, why is this game rated? Like, why are they taking this out if you're a US person looking at the game, you're like, why'd they need to make the outfits less sexy, like it's a teen-rated game, or why'd they need to modify this scene, it's a teen-rated game? The answer is, it's not teen-rated in Japan. So
yeah, and they could feasibly change it back for the US version, but again, us getting these games at all is an afterthought. So I am not surprised that they didn't change any of these things back, especially since that would have involved them potentially like making new 3DS models.
Yeah, they would have to re-render things, and that's why they did it. So there's been some changes. This scene that takes place in Arcadia is, in my opinion, the most the most annoying the most disappointing of the changes that they had to make in the 3DS version. The version I first experienced, although I did know, I knew when I was reading about the changes that have been made, it said that a certain scene involving David and Domenico and Sir Leopold was changed. But I did not watch the full contents of the scene before I played the game. So then in the 3DS version, what happens is Domenico is yelling at David about you didn't you didn't take care of Sir Leopold properly, and David's like, I'm so sorry, and he's on the ground bowing, and the dog Sir Leopold comes up and kind of gets in his face and scares David, and David falls on his back.
And Leopold laughs at him.
Yeah.
I should mention, because he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, you mean Domenico.
Oh, sorry, that's
the
what I
dog
meant,
doesn't laugh. He probably is laughing inside, though. Okay.
No, the dog whinnies and is happy when Domenico praises him, though.
Yeah,
So the dog's that kind of guy too, or that kind of dog.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so that's a pretty douchey move. In the PS2 version, what happens is Domenico is yelling at David, and he accuses him of poisoning Sir Leopold's food. For no reason. Domenico is horrible. This scene just establishes in either version that Domenico is horrible to David for absolutely no reason. So what happens in the original version, he's like, you poisoned Sir Leopold's food, and he's like, I would never do that. And Domenico's like, prove it. Eat the food. Eat the dog food. And he's with your mouth like a dog. So David puts down the bowl of dog food and eats it, starts eating it without using his hands, just with his mouth, and it's absolutely humiliating. It's so it's inhumane.
It's a great scene in the PS2 version too. And now I should mention, normally I don't really care about a lot of localization changes that are made. If they censor, I've used censor in quotation marks because censorship is only the correct term when the government's involved, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, like, when they make the outfits less sexy, I usually don't care, because I'm like, whatever. But this bothers me more because it actually does change the meaning of the scene and the meaning of the relationships between the characters. Because in the 3DS version, all you really understand is that Domenico's an asshole. But he's maybe no different than any other asshole. I still hated him when I played the game, and I didn't even know that the stuff had been changed. Yeah. But in the PS2 version, it's clear that not only is Domenico like a jerk, it's not that he just looks down at David or thinks he's annoying. He views David as less than human. That's what the symbolism of him eating the dog food like a dog is supposed to mean.
He views him as less than his pet dog. He clearly values his dog a million times more than David. You know, that he would humiliate David over some perceived threat to his dog, whom David is remarkably nice to, considering what a horrible creature the dog is to David.
Yeah, and this is probably the localization change that... No, not the localization change, because again, it's not a localization thing. This is how it is in the Japanese version, too. But this is the change that bothered us the most, because it's not just like, oh no, I can't pet my waifu's face. It's like this actually does change the meaning of the story. In, arguably in a minor way, but I'd still say in a way that makes it a worse product as a whole, which is a shame to me.
It takes away from especially again, because this is such a cinematic game, that cutscene was supposed to be important in the original way it was designed, and I think some of that is lost when the cutscene is modified in that way. So
you still get the general gist of it, you still feel sorry for David, and you still hate Domenico, but the extreme is not there. You're not... So it loses that... The impact is dulled in that case. But, you you still got the thingies, so the Domenico can make his shields now.
So then he said... And there's actually a really cute, a subtle thing they do here, where Domenico, you realize, he sends you to go get a book from his, little secret library that you weren't able to go into before, because I guess he's too fat and lazy to go down the stairs. And when you go down there, there's books, and if you are a RPG type person and you read all the books, you find out that the line of sages that Domenico claims to be descended from, there was this relationship with another family where basically they kind of I don't entirely know. I forget exactly how they describe it.
They passed it on. I don't remember why, because again, this is lore stuff that's a little bit hard to remember at points. But basically, the line that Domenico comes from gave up their being the sage and instead dedicated themselves to protecting this other line, which became the true inheritors.
I think what it was is closer to. So you find out. There's this other line. Kupas is the name of the sage that... So Kupas's line were the sages, but I think they were afraid that if attention were drawn to them being the sages, that they would be in danger. So there was this other family, this other lineage, Domenico's lineage, that was supposed to protect, that decided, okay, we'll protect you. And over time, it changed. It sort of things blurred so that the fact that Kupas's line were the true sages was lost, and Domenico's line became known as the line descended from Kupas. So basically, you find out Domenico is not actually the heir of the sage. He is supposed to be protecting the heir of the sage. And astute listener / player is then thinking, but who is the sage? Oh, Jessica's outside. Apparently she knows who the sage is.
Boss fight! So then you have the Jessica boss fight, which is okay, I guess. Honestly, boss fights for Dragon Quest without having the full party always feel a little bit empty to me. Because especially considering that Jessica has all your buffs, except for Ka-buff. She has all the interesting spells that manifest in strategy. It felt like a very...
Angelo can get oomph if you do staves.
I didn't have him on staves at that point.
Just saying.
Yeah,
just saying that you can.
I know, but you would but she uses stuff like spells, so something like, say, Magic Barrier would be very useful for that fight, and you just straight up do not have the option.
Yeah.
In that, but like it's okay. You beat Jessica. She drops the stick. Everything's back to normal. You saved like she was about to kill David. You saved David, right? Right?
Oh, can we talk about like Jessica's super exhausted from like being evil and us hitting her in the face a ton. So we like take her to the inn and she sleeps for a few hours and has a wonderful dream in which she's talking to her brother Alistair about like they're talking about like their heritage, and there's a bunch of, of course, like, oh, I love you so much, Alistair, you're my everything.
Yeah, we were so close. I can't do magic as good as you, brother.
And then he's like,
oh,
no,
don't worry, Jessica, I'll teach you.
And he's like, he's like, I think you might be the true heir of the sage because you have so much potential with magic. And I was like, what's going on here? And then
it's a very uncomfortable. Yeah. Jessica loves her brother very much.
And then she wakes up, and the first thing she sees is 8's face, and then it's like superimposed with an image of Alistair's face, which is very similar, like, to 8's face. And I think my reaction to Ted in a text was, did Jessica just see Alistair's face in 8? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, BRB vomiting.
It's, oh man, like, I get that sibling relationships are tricky to do in a lot of things, because, like, it's, you love your siblings, but, like, you don't love your siblings, or if you do, then maybe you should think about that and why, and, like, take a good hard look in yourself. But yeah, Jessica and Alistair's relationship is very, very creepy and has a lot of incestuous tones, and it made me uncomfortable. And also, like I mean, it was like Fire Emblem bad in several instances.
No, Fire Emblem is worse because, like, people are actually, like, banging their siblings. Nothing is as bad as Revolutionary Girl Utena, though. That show's bizarre. Everyone has a brother-sister complex in that show, pretty much. Anyways, if you
but yeah, it felt like it came out of nowhere, like she likes the hero now, and I'm like, okay,
well,
because we remind her of her brother.
Yeah, that's what I found creepy, was that, okay, like, I knew going into the game that they added a "You Marry Jessica" ending. I was like, okay, whatever, they did that.
Well, and we'll
discuss that.
We will definitely.
But I was like, okay, so are they trying to sell me on the hero? Like, Jessica loves the hero, but she also, like, does she see him as a replacement for Alistair? Because I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
It's an issue with the game not having a lot of interaction between characters, where you get so little interaction between Jessica and the hero, and the party chat from her is so bland, where she very rarely talks about what she feels or thinks. It's always like, oh, this place has such and such. I do not like Jessica. I'm just gonna state this right now. I don't like her. I think she's the worst character in the game, in my opinion. At least out of the main characters' mind.
I remember you said at one point that you thought Angela was the worst. So
like,
pleased to see that your opinion has changed.
I have different issues with Angelo.
Yeah.
Angelo, at the very least, Angelo is a frustrating character to me, because there were stuff there that could work. Like, I think I was mentioning this last time, where, like, it's interesting the way he reacts, like, where he goes inward. He doesn't want to talk to anybody when confronted with difficult things. It's just that doesn't portray well.
Yeah.
Basically, like, it makes him appear very standoffish. It makes him appear like an asshole, and I don't like that. But there's stuff to work with Angelo. Like, there was potential for something better with Angelo, whereas with Jessica, like, what's her character arc at all in this game?
What is it? I felt like the whole thing with the scepter ended up being a missed opportunity. So to progress with the plot a little bit, when Jessica wakes up, she tells the party that the scepter actually was possessing Dulmagus, and the scepter contains the soul of Rapthorn that was sealed away by the Seven Sages. So Rapthorn had possessed Dulmagus and then possessed Jessica. So this is like the big revelation. And then we're like, oh, but donde es el scepter? And we go outside, and oh, the dog has it. The dog.
And then David dies anyway. And
Yeah.
this starts a really frustrating thing with Dragon Quest VIII, is where the game takes away your victories over and over and over again, and you're not even given any concessions in return. And so it's just like, okay, you beat the boss fight, you saved David. Oh,
No, he has
wouldn't
to die.
it be terrible if... Yeah, and it's frustrating because once you figure out that, okay, Rapthorn's trying to kill the sages so that he can break free, you know by the time that David dies that, okay, no matter what we try to do, the rest of them are all
Two
going
more
to die,
people are going to die.
otherwise
Because otherwise the game's just going to end without us fighting Rapthorn, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Like-
so it's so irritating too because you beat all of his stooges every single time. Like, there's a boss fight, you win, but you don't get to save the sage. Nope, they get to die anyway because otherwise there wouldn't be a story. Even if they had just given you consolations too, like you had mentioned that Final Fantasy IV does that as well, and the game does do that. But at least in Final Fantasy IV, with every downturn, there was always a consolation and something to bring you back up immediately after that. Like, a character would come back, you'd get like a different mode of transportation. There was always something to bounce you back and like get you motivated to keep on trying. Whereas with Dragon Quest VIII, it's we screwed up. Better keep on going.
Yeah, but Jessica,
maybe we'll get him next
learns
time.
Kafrizzle and Kassizzle. Isn't that worth
Oh.
it?
I mean, like, Kassizzle's pretty good in this game because group damage is great, but if I'm not using Jessica for single targeting damage.
No,
in Dragon
I'm
Quest VIII.
joking. So here's one thing that I said to Ted that I think would have potentially given Jessica a little more depth. I think Jessica should have been the one to kill David while possessed by the scepter, because as it is, like, she leaves Arcadia, and anytime you go back to Arcadia, she mentions like how uncomfortable it makes her and like how she remembers everything that happened there. I think it would have given her a depth if she had to live with the guilt of having killed someone while possessed, because like even if she knows it's not her fault, that sticks with you. Like, I feel like she
I
needed
agree that it
something,
would have. I agree that she needed depth. I'm not necessarily sure if that's the way to do it, because that to me is just another loss in your column, because at the point in the game where you're thinking that you're trying to protect Domenico, you're trying to keep, like, up until like the point where Jessica attacks and you have that boss fight, you're thinking, okay, we have to stop Jessica from killing Domenico. And at that point, you hate Domenico. So it's not so much about keeping Domenico alive, at least not for me. It was more about keeping Jessica from becoming a murderer. So had Jessica killed David, it would have just felt like another loss on your part. It would have just felt like, oh, you weren't able to do it in time. You screwed up again. And I get where you're coming from. It would give her character something to mull over and potentially somewhere to grow, but I don't see how her character, like, evolves beyond that, other than feeling really guilty, I guess. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know where that would lead her character, I suppose. I agree that she needed something to do, because especially after that...
It just felt like Jessica had the same motivation for the entire game, which was, I want to avenge Alistair's death.
Yeah.
And it after a while, I was just like, Jessica, I am so sick of you talking about your brother who you want to bone.
It's like people clearly have bigger issues with Rapthorn at the moment. Like, for example, like, we'll get to that when we get to that. But like, it's so much bigger than your stupid brother at this point. Like, everybody has lost someone in the except for Yangus. But Yangus also doesn't pretend that he's in this for any other reason than he and the Gov are best bros. So.
And I think he does I think Yangus does, when he realizes the severity of what's going on. I think it does mean something to him stopping Rapthorn.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not in it for any sort of like direct personal, someone I know was killed by Rapthorn. So.
Yeah, like, I'd say that Angelo has far more of a right to pull the, oh, this is so terrible, woe is me card, and that's because he's, pulling a Cloud, Strike, Vincent, Valentine in some instances. But
So,
no, he's not that angsty.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's actually not very angsty at all. He's just
Quiet.
annoyed.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about it, and I'm like, okay, fine then.
Yep.
I'm gonna go feed Munchie some cheese. It's his lunchtime. But
So then we get a scene that I think is pretty interesting where Domenico had kind of realized, I think the night before, no, it was that morning that he realized David's the sage's heir.
He didn't realize until Rapthorn told him.
Yeah.
Like he says, I'm not trying to kill you, you twit. I'm trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Is I think what Jessica says. At that point, like they don't know why. At that point, like I don't think Rapthorn says he's the sage. He just says, I'm trying to kill David.
Yeah.
But I honestly I did not like Domenico's change at all. Like I think the game has a scene later that does it this kind of thing much better, and even then that, you know what I'm talking about there. I still think
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I still think that scene's flawed, but the personality change there is far more believable than Domenico, because he's all like, oh, I feel so sorry. I never should have treated David this way. Oh, how can they can never forgive me? And I'm like, dude, you literally made him eat dog food. You did not care. It felt like crocodile tears to me.
I get what you're saying. I think what they might have been trying to do is there's a couple overarching themes in this game, and one of them is the concept that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
That a lot of the villains or antagonists in the game are people in a position of power, and the power goes to their head and they do awful things because of that. Last time I mentioned like how Marcello, when he became abbot, if you go back and visit, you find out he's doing like basically treating the monks like garbage in order to expand the Templars. Prince Charmels is one of the biggest examples of that, and Domenico is a case of that, where his family became, and his line became so enamored by their own power that they lost sight of what they were supposed to do, which was protect the actual sage's line. So I think I agree. It's not the switch isn't done well, but I do like the fact that he reflects on that sort of theming that they were going for.
I get what you're going for. I agree. It does fit with the overarching themes with the game. I don't know. And obviously, he couldn't just remain an asshole after all that happens. He had to feel some amount of guilt, but it didn't feel believable for him to, like, go full out, oh, I'm gonna change my ways, oh, I'm gonna... Like, if he was just, like, devastated and didn't really know what to do, that would feel more believable. And, like, maybe later in the game, you can see him, like, if you go back for optional dialogue, like, you can see him maybe, like, talk more about, like, thinking, maybe I should try to work on teaching magic to people to prevent stuff like this from happening again or something. That would feel more believable than him being like, oh, this is so terrible, oh, I feel so bad. I don't think that's the human reaction that would happen after that sort of situation, because, unfortunately, bad people don't become good people overnight just because they witnessed a bad thing happening. That would, it's far more complicated than that.
No, it was a very fast, it was an awkwardly fast about face.
Yeah, so it had issues. And, but then after this point, they're like, okay, so Sir Leopold...
You gotta follow the dog.
Yeah, Sir Leopold is now Rapthorn's puppet at this point. He grows wings, which is really cool.
No, that's later. That's way later, dude.
But I thought he was flying at... Oh,
no.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry.
No, it's after the next person cocks it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you have to chase after the stupid dog. So, rev up the mystery machine and go north to Irkutsk.
But first, on the way there, we get caught in a blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then you meet Marta and her giant dog Boris.
Yeah.
It was clearly
I guess they wanted us to like dogs again. Or something?
Yeah, I guess so. They wanted a contrast of like a good dog.
Yeah. So yeah, you do meet like I think like what was it, like Trode and was it Yankees have an argument about something, and they're
arguing about how cold it is, and then Trode and Medea storm off, and Trode drags Medea off, And then we get caught in the rest of the party gets caught in a blizzard, and we're like, ah! And then we get dragged out by Boris off cam, and we wake up.
Yeah, and it's revealed that Trode went and got help, I think is what happens. Yep. So, and then we're rescued by Marta, who's this sweet old lady. She heals us. She gives us a place to stay. She talks about what's going on. And she basically says, okay, now that you're better, can you please deliver these herbs to my son in Irkutsk? And you're like, sure, you're a sweet old lady. Like, you know, I'm sure that this innocent errand has nothing to do with any of the plot that's about to be happening in the near future. So actually, I do like Irkutsk. It's a pain to get around the town too. Yeah. There too, but it's one of the neater environments to me in the game. Like, I don't know, ice areas, particularly in RPGs, just have that so like cozy. Atmosphere to them.
Like I love the idea that the whole town, like, you can walk around. Like, yeah, I agree. It's kind of a pain to get around, like, as the player. But I love the idea of, like, that people in this cold environment would live in a town where you could get to a lot of the main things without having to go outside. Like, that's super clever.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Yeah.
It's annoying when you can't just go outside and zoom out someplace. You have to, like, walk through the whole town, but whatever, you know. But you go to the town and, it looks like her son isn't there. He went picking herbs in a cave, and he hasn't been back in a while. Maybe we should, like, go check on him or something. So, dungeon time. We get our last Munchie playable sequence here too.
I was expecting another one, but
it's it's a cute little gameplay sequence, but it doesn't there's really nothing to it. You just walk from place to place, and I mean the music's good, but there's really not much else to it. So I think I would have appreciated one more just to remind us that Munchie is here.
Yes,
but it was cute, and then you find. Oh, what's his name?
Merrick.
Merrick? Okay, yeah. You find him, you give him the nook grass, which is what they use to keep warm, and how they explain how Yangus and Jessica walk around in those outfits.
Yeah.
In that weather. Because, even just sipping the tea that they drink is enough to, keep you warm for, hours. And it's actually really funny. Merrick is caught under an icicle when you it's like a toppled boulder or a stalactite or something.
Yeah.
So he's too cold to move, and so in order to warm up, he has to eat the nook grass straight, which you're not supposed to do, and it literally sets his mouth on fire, which is
I think
funny.
He shoots flames out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And Munchie was probably whoa! I thought I was the only one who could do that.
Yeah.
So you you get Merrick up, and then when you leave the cave that he was in, you're surrounded by these awful hellhound wolf things.
Weren't they random encounters throughout the dungeon too, or the overworld?
I can't remember
at that point.
I can't remember.
I think they were. I'm 90% sure that they were.
Okay.
Yeah. But even if they weren't, I think it's kind of like the automatons in Dragon Quest VII, in that sense, where you at first you might just think that they're a random enemy, but then you find out that no, they're not just a random enemy. So Merrick had a falling out with his mother because he didn't want to do what his mother's family line did. He wanted to be a doctor to help people in the city.
And what his mother does, and the reason she lives in an isolated cottage, is she looks after some ruins that were left by one of the sages in a mountain cave behind her house. So sages.
But he says but he's I want you to thank my mother for getting me these herbs. It means a lot to me. And so you're going to go back to Marta's house, and this is actually, I think, one of the more effective moments in the game. You go to her house, it's playing the cheery music, everything's fine. You open the door, and suddenly there's wolves in there.
Yeah, there's
tearing stuff up.
Literally just 4 or 5 wolves in the top room. Just one of them's sitting on the table right when you enter, and I shrieked when I was playing the game because I was not expecting that. And it starts playing the tense music, and they're all over the house. If you go into the basement part, they're in the basement. They're it was, and you can fight them if you touch into them. You fight them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well, Marta's not here.
Yeah, so you look for her. Actually, one thing that they changed in the 3DS version, which is really minor, there was a mini medal that was missable if you didn't explore Martha's cottage before this scene, but they made it so that you could get it afterwards in the 3DS version.
Okay, nice.
So it's not there. I don't think there are any missable mini medals in the 3DS version of the game.
Nice.
Like, maybe there might be a few, but at the very least they did make several missable ones non-missable. So, good on them. But yeah, so you eventually go into the cave.
Yeah, Marta's hiding in the ruins, and
there's this magic shield, and they're like, okay, we're safe now. Like, we're fine. And then, like, Rapthorn's like, knock, knock, got your son, why don't you come out? And then we're like, well, shit.
Yep.
So you go out, you fight, like, 10 wolves in one fight. It's actually not that hard, because they're pretty vanilla enemies, all things considered. But you beat them. You beat them very easily, mind you.
Sir Leopold doesn't even fight you. Sir Leopold's just, like, standing there, like...
Oh, no, but there's too many of them. We couldn't possibly win. So, and they don't even let you...
Ted, I actually don't think that's what they were going for. I think what they were going for is Sir Leopold has Merrick. Merrick's, half unconscious on the ground, and Sir Leopold, or evil Sir Leopold, says to Marta, you give yourself up to me right now, or I will kill your son. And Marta is like, okay, I'm ready to die.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because I totally felt like I could take on Sir Leopold at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, Marta, get behind the shields. You're fine. We can handle this. We're a seasoned party of adventurers with a very successful, somewhat successful track record. We can handle it. Like, I don't know, like Jessica cast snooze on him and pulled Merrick out and, have a boss fight.
I guess it's like, you could make the same argument for a certain scene in DQ5. Like... Pancras.
You're a literal 5-6-year-old.
No. Ted, I'm saying that... Alright, you might... how are we gonna do this without spoilers? Don't you think
Pancras doesn't know magic, though. Is like, he knows healing magic, and that's it. Like, they don't ever show him knowing other spells that he could have used to get out of said situation, where we are a team of 4 adventurers with a wide variety of skills that I felt like we could have gotten out of the situation that we were in, but the writing forced us to let Marta sacrifice herself. It felt forced.
It definitely felt forced. I think that's the problem that especially the last 3 sages suffer from, is like the death of spoiler alert, that was the 6th sage. The 7th one's not going to do much better. It was like at David, I realized, the next 2 people we meet who are sages' heirs are going to die, and there is nothing we can do about it because we need Rapthorn to be released so we can have a final boss. And it sucks when the writing is that transparent. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. It takes all the tension out. Yeah.
Yeah, because and especially since it totally feels like you could have won, too. Like, that's what I felt with Marta. Honestly, I felt it with David, too. They do a little bit of a better job with David, because at the very least, Sir Leopold does it, off-screen. I mean, granted, it's still... And I actually think that they handled the 7th stage pretty well, but... Well in a certain way, not well in other ways. That's really complicated, and we'll get to that when we get to that.
Marta's dead.
Sir Leopold grows giant bird wings.
I will say, shout out to Merrick's voice actor for really, tugging at heartstrings with his reaction to Marta dying.
Both him and Marta are great voice actors.
They did a really good job. There's something very tragic sounding about Russian accents just make everything sound even more sad.
Have you ever read Russian literature? It's their entire lives are about pain and misery.
Yeah. Should move to Russia. Anyways, so Sir Leopold then is like, and you're like, okay, where are you gonna go, Sir Leopold? We're at the end of the continent. And he's like, please, I'm gonna grow wings and fly away. And we're like, oh, that's fair.
Well, one thing that I really do like, though, is that the bird wings are very similar to Dulmagus' bird wings in his 2nd form.
Yep.
Which really annoys me that neither of Rapthorn's forms, when you get to the final boss fight, have that bird theming. which would have been really cool considering other bird-related stuff in the plot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like the game was doing a good job at keeping consistent, and then I do not like Rapthorn, honestly.
His design,
like I know that
well,
like,
everything, I guess.
I don't like Rapthorn is probably my least, like, I haven't played out of the games I played, Rapthorn's probably my least favorite like evil lord final villain. And that's a shame too because I liked Dual Magus. I thought Dual Magus was interesting.
Yeah.
Like there was a mystique about him, his voice was threatening, like he was clearly stronger than you. You didn't know what was going on. But as soon as Dual Magus dies and you find out that it's Rapthorn and like the villain of the game is a stick, like literally a stick. It's
that dog is the worst dog ever at fetch.
No, he won't give it back.
He never comes back.
What a jerk. Bad dog.
Domenico, you need to teach your dog better.
Yeah, but it's like Rapthorn. Well, I'll get into more about like why I dislike Rapthorn because a lot of it comes at the end of the game. But like on top of him not being very interesting as well, it's just he's incredibly frustrating because it started off so strong, but once you find out that I just want to kill the sages and come back, they never do anything more with it than that. Yep. So again, like when the mystery is revealed, you find out that it wasn't necessarily worth all the hype, I guess, which is kind of the worst feeling, unfortunately, for me.
So a dog flew away, and we have a 7th sage to hunt down, and we know the dog's gonna go after it, but none of us know how to fly, so that's a bit of a problem. But Marta gave us this key, the ultimate key, which I think canonically the reason she would have it is because I think that's the key she uses to lock and unlock the door to the ruins, because the ruins have like a jail cell type door. Yeah. And just ever since DQ4, I think it was, the ultimate key can open jail cells.
Yeah, at least DQ5. I don't know if they changed that in the... Well, they might have changed it by Dragon Warrior 4 on the NES. Because one annoying thing about Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 is that like you had to have each individual key for each type of door on you at all times and like use them in your inventory. It's an NES game. Yeah. But yeah, so at this point you're like, well, now what do I do? And the answer is side quests. Like at any point after you get Jessica back, you can go back to back to Baccarat and get the casino back open. And actually doing that results in a really like weird piece of party chat where the only way you can get the casino open is after you beat Dual Magus, and once you complete that side quest, Jessica says, now we can focus on killing Dual Magus, and I'm like, Jessica, Dual Magus is already dead, so I don't know how that slipped through. But you can like you might need to hit the slots after like watching another sage die or something, so you could go to Baccarat.
It's super sad that there's no poker at Baccarat though. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, the casino is the best way to make money in the game. Oh, yeah. But we should talk about the cash and carry. We should talk about some of the side quests that you can do at this point.
The cash and carry one's fun because I really liked at the end because basically these two brats are they're Golding's adopted children, and they're arguing over who's going to inherit Golding's like fortune in the casino now that Golding's dead. And they go through this rite of passage where they have to go to the dragon's graveyard. And they're basically racing there, and you get to pick one of them to side with. I chose Carrie.
I did too, but I've looked it up. No matter who you pick, the other one just basically, like, it's the same story either way. If you pick Cash, then what happens is Carrie drugs you to get a head start. And if you pick Carrie, Cash drugs you to get a head start. And, like, they're really, like, petty and rude to each other and whatnot. And like, like again, like there's glimmers where I actually do like the character development because when they're talking, like when you do party chat, like Jessica mentions like, oh, why can't they just get along? They're brother and sister after all. And then Angelo says, you know nothing about sibling relationships. You loved your brother. Like this is more how it is for everyone else.
Yeah.
So like that was like one of the few times where Jessica and Angelo actually had something interesting to say to each other. And it's a refreshing change of pace when that does come up. So
yeah, I really liked the part at the end though where the spirit of the sage that Golding was descended from talks to Cash and Carrie from the crystal ball that they find at the end of the dungeon and basically says like, as my heir, you have a duty to keep this lineage going. And they were like, but we're adopted. So the lineage ended when our father was murdered, and he adopted us, and treated us like his kids, despite knowing that that kind of went against what his family wanted him to do. Um, I kind of thought that was pretty interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it was cool. I also liked that they had to open the door, which had burning hot metal on it, so it could put a mark on their hands
Yeah.
as well, which was neat. I liked what they were going for too, because it again, another theme of the game is like family and like the idea of a duty to one's family. That's something that pops up a lot, and necessarily like basically what they decide is that as long as they can follow through with the spirit of the duty, even if they can't fulfill the details, then that's good enough. And like that, I think that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then you can go to the casino, which is kind of lame, honestly. Like there's bingo.
Money shop. It's how you make money.
Yeah, you do the casino game to make, but like
I swear, if I ever felt like writing a Dragon Quest VIII fanfiction, there would just be a part where 8 is uncannily good at winning the roulette. And everyone's just like, how does 8 win every time? And 8's just like, I don't know. Because that is the key to making money. Like, if you just want to spam to get money, roulette's the way to go.
Yeah, save scum on the roulette. Place your bets in a strategic way. Like, because the roulette odds are very good. Like they're better than a normal roulette. For sure. So if you like put all of your money on every possible space within like a third of the roulette wheel, you're like 1 out of every 3 times you'll make like 5 times the amount of money that you put down. And you keep on doing that, you get a lot of prayer rings from the shop, you sell the prayer rings, you make cash. So, but it's just disappointing that there wasn't a lot of fun games, because if there's a good casino in an RPG, I'm there for hours, like literally hours. Like my playtime for Tales of the Abyss, which is an extremely flawed game, is probably 15 hours longer because I spent so much time in the casino. So, yeah, like I wish there were more and better mini games in there. But Dragon Quest, like the card games in particular, has always been kind of lacking in Dragon Quest to me. The monster battles are cool, and I loved the matching game in Dragon Quest VII though. So, yeah. Were there any other side quests in the mid game that we should talk about? We already talked. We already talked monsters.
Yeah, we talked about
bit.
monsters. No, that's all I had written down.
Yeah, so, okay. So let's continue with the plot. You're kind of like meandering about.
I forget how the game directed you to go to the Pirate's Cove.
I think NPC dialogue, basically. Yeah, I just have to explore and find it. That's common for Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And then, but when you do find the Pirate's Cove, oh, look who's here. It's Red for some reason. And, like, she's like, oh, race you lot to the finish line. And, like, she's gonna like loot the place. She loots the place of treasure. Like almost every treasure chest you find, she got to first.
Yeah.
Which I actually think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And you solve puzzles, and then she just walks ahead of you, and for some reason you just let her get the a head start.
Yeah.
Because 8's just kind of standing there like, duh.
I think Yangus is afraid to cross her.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I know that they had to bring Red back. You can go to Red for optional dialogue with her and Yangus, but she's never like, and she's such a strong character that they had to bring her back.
Yeah.
But at this point, Yangus is done with development. They don't really ever elaborate on a Yangus during the dungeon at all either. It's not really about him.
No.
And so it just kind of felt like, oh, we needed to have Red be here because she's a character who exists. So, like, I mean, granted, it's a fun dungeon, and I love having Red around, so I'm not really complaining. It's just, it didn't feel as tightly written as other parts of the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but, you know, pirate dungeon, you get to the bottom and you fight Captain Crow, who's a massive pervert.
Oh yeah, because he is one of the only bosses, I think, who will get distracted by Jessica's fine form and lose a turn.
Yeah, I think he's also susceptible to things like Puff Puff too. So
he kicks Red's butt, and then we have to fight him, and then we get, like, I think it's called an illuminated sea chart.
Yeah, it allows us to go to a different continent, which we actually have to go to in order to progress the plot. But exclusive to the 3DS version, after this dungeon, Red joins your party.
You won!
That is a funny scene, though.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it.
She
And
wasn't she like, I'm not asking, I'm telling.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, I'm coming with you. You what? So it's, yeah, like, I bet you have a lot of treasure lying about. But even though she joins our party, we don't get to keep any of the stuff
Oh
she
yeah,
found.
because she mentions, and I think this is a holdover from the PS2 version. She mentions like, "Oh, that's all there was in that chest, a bleeding sea chart. Well, I'll keep the 10,000 golds I got on my way here." And I'm like, Red, do I get the 10,000 gold back? What?
No, it's mine, love.
Gold Bennett, what are you, daft?
Yeah.
I swear you're as dumb as Yangus sometimes.
Oi, Red, you don't need to be throwing them low blows now. But Red is great. Her party chat is fantastic, for the record.
Yeah.
If you take her to the spring to talk to Medea, she's like, oi, you have a thing for Medea, or do you have a thing for one of them other girls? Like, like, if you have a thing
yeah,
for...
she's like, there's 3 very different women in our party. Which one's your type? Don't worry, I'm not gonna do anything if you say it ain't me. And I'm not gonna do anything if you say it is.
Yes, so I think she's like, I don't care if it's someone else, and I don't care if it is me.
Yeah. And she's
I
like,
think
basically, she's like, I'm not gonna do anything. Like, I'm not gonna get you off just because you say it's me.
If she needs to be gotten off, she might, like, recruit you. But if you're nearby, but, like,
Yeah.
she there's probably a lot of fun fan fiction with Red, now that I'm thinking about it.
There is. Not a ton, because, American Dragon Quest.
And also, they're too busy writing about Jessica's boobs, I'm also guessing.
That too, also Angelo.
Yeah.
But yeah, Red's a fun character.
Yeah.
And I think I said this when we were talking about the optional characters like earlier, but I really love Red's party chat because, oftentimes she's just kind of observing things, but there's something about the way she observes things. She's very keen on people. She's very like, she's not afraid to say things for what they are and to make observations that I think other people wouldn't necessarily make, like especially if you go to like a church area, she'll say things like, I just found her observations were always just felt really insightful and very had character. It felt like Red was saying them, as opposed to, I'm gonna compare with like Aish, where Aish from DQ7, or to an extent Jessica in this game, where it was just like, oh, this is a place, this is a thing.
We have to
Like,
stop
Red,
Dual Magus in order to, like, save the sage. And Red never says anything that's stock. She's talking more specifically about the place and, like, stuff that she could nick there, or, whatever. She's very entertaining, and you really needed a character like that, especially since Angelo's off being a grump most of the time. Like, Yangus is still great, but Jessica especially just never has anything interesting to say.
One of my favorite Red, I forget where it was that you get this line where Red's like, when we were kids, we always wondered if Yangus was half dwarf because he's so short. Turns out he's not half dwarf. He's like, I forget what she said he was, but and Yangus is like, all right, that's enough, Red.
Oh, you want to tell Red? You want to tell us about Yangus's adventures in the Monster Land?
Oh, that's a story for another day. Hey, Mori was there too. Why don't no one remember that?
Oh, man.
Red's cute, by the way. Little Red is really cute. Like child cute. I'm not like.
I don't know how I feel about young Yangus's design though. Like, it barely looks like him.
Yeah, it doesn't look like him at all.
Yeah, so, but again, that's a story for another time. But it was great getting Red there, and then you go to the chart leads you to this continent that had been in the southwest of the okay, motorcycles. All right, the mean
he's heading to that continent, Ted.
Yeah. Man, you have to show off how much of a badass motorcyclist you are in the Boston suburbs. Wow, you sure are badass there. Anyway,
in traditional Dragon Quest fashion, there's always seems to be this one continent/island that is surrounded by mountains or cliffs, and you just can't get to it with your ship. or your magic carpet if you happen to have one.
Yeah, and so you go there because the chart like reveals like a secret passage in one of the walls, so you can get the ship through and then climb about. And you can explore there. You find a town which is full of like tribes people, and like they're talking about like a god bird and like a world of darkness, and you're like, okay. And so you just walk into a portal to another dimension, just kind of randomly.
I think what they say is like Imperia, the god bird is also called Imperia, and she's like, she hasn't been around, like she's in the world of darkness, but you can see her shadow in our world. So what you follow her shadow and she opens a portal, so you enter the world of darkness. And I felt like the world of darkness was just kind of felt like a butt pull. Like,
yeah, it's
there's this
their
completely separate world that like in theory, like, is our entire world in there? Well, I don't know, because we are only on this one island, and you find out.
Yeah,
I think
I bothered
Imperia
that.
tells you, this is where Rapthorn was rule of the world of darkness, like basically.
Oh wait, well hold on. You have to remember. Oh, you forgot the fact that we have to fight Imperia. She just like attacks us for no good reason with one of the most annoying boss fights in the goddamn game. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
So like ever since the Dual Magus fight, things have actually been pretty comfortable up to this point. Like again, Dragon Quest isn't easy, but it's been comfortable enough. You can handle it. Imperia, I think, has one of the most bullshit fights in the game. There's a lot of bullshit fights in this game, especially in the post game for the 3DS, which we will get to. But in terms of the main story, I think that Imperia's fight is probably the worst in the game because it comes out of nowhere and it's on the overworld. So the first time you fight it, you could be completely unprepared for this encounter. And second off, this is the first fight with Disruptive Wave too, so that's going to get on your case. And also, she confuses your party. And unless if you go and grind for confusion rings, which takes a lot of time and money too.
I did that.
How long did that take you?
It took a while because you need to make the ring that guards against confusion. You need to combine a gold ring and a fallen angel rapier. The fallen angel rapier you get by combining a holy silver rapier with a devil tail.
Oh, and you can't get Devil's Tail. It's a rare drop.
They're a 1 in 64 drop from a Demon Thunderer, which fortunately are quite common on the light world. Actually, I think in the dark world version too, of the Godbird Island. So, but yeah, I got super lucky that it didn't take me like forever to get them, because I think like steals and drops in this game are like garbage. Yeah,
that's one thing about Dragon Quest, is that I get that drops should be pretty rare, but stealing in Dragon Quest has always felt like a waste of time. Like, never bother. Like, I think it might, like, maybe double your chance if you use a stealing move.
No, it's worse. The way it works is, okay, so Yangus gets 2 moves. I don't know how Red's formula works, because Red, once you give her skill points in roguery, she gets a chance to pinch either gold or an item, like one of the steel items, from an enemy after battle. So okay, that's Red. Yangus is the character with the dedicated steel move, which is Steel Sickle and Stainless Steel Sickle. The way it works is Steel Sickle has a 1/4 of the normal drop rate chance of stealing an item.
What?
And Stainless Steel Sickle has 1/2 of the normal drop rate. I would like to remind you that a lot of the drops are 1 in 64.
Or like, even if it's a 1 in 32, that's still like, you could potentially do like, that's like, oh my god, that's terrible. No wonder it felt like such a waste of time. Oh, that's terrible.
I'm double checking right now to make sure that I don't have my information wrong, but I believe I looked it up at some point, and it's like, what? So yeah, like for example, I want to get like slime crowns because I'm still working on post game. I might give up at some point. We'll see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay. Steel Sickle, this is from the Good Dragon Quest wiki. Success rate of Steel Sickle is 1/4 the normal item's drop rate.
Oh, that's
and Stainless
awful.
Steel Sickle success rate is half the item's normal drop rate and increased damage compared to Steel Sickle.
So it's, and
for
also,
example,
honestly, the increased damage, like, that's just more likely to kill the enemy if you're trying to farm
actually,
stuff.
apparently in the PS2 version, so that's why they gave us the Candy Cane download item for Yangus, which is like a joke weapon that always does just 1 damage. The reason is, if you hate yourself, you can sit there and have Yangus just stainless steel sickle with the Candy Cane, and he'll only do 1 damage, so you can just sit there and keep trying to get a drop. And in the PS2 version, apparently what people did was they gave Yangus the cursed skull helm, because the that seems like a really risky move, because then I think you would lose the skull helm when you get it removed from Yangus, but the skull helm lowers your attack like to 0 basically, so you could spam Steel Sickle and do like 1 damage to enemies. And just keep spamming that to try and get a drop.
It's such a waste of time. But anyway, the point is, the first time you fight the boss, the Imperia is just gonna keep on spamming. I think it's Cufuddle actually.
Yeah, it's Cufuddle. Yep.
And so your character's gonna keep on being confused, and you don't really have a way to prevent confusion. Like, what's really the best option is if your characters get paralyzed because they're confused, because then the hero can use Tingle and cure the paralysis. But it's that's the big problem with a lot of these bosses, is that not that they use status effects, that's fine, it's that they use status effects that you have no way of counteracting at all.
Yeah.
And it's irritating, and it's a hard fight. And then when you beat her, oh, I was just testing you. You are brave and valiant heroes. I need your help. Please help me, even though I just whacked your faces in 6 times.
Yeah, you maybe should go stay at the inn before you actually go help me, because I just kicked your butts pretty hard. Sorry about that.
But I did interrupt you. I'm sorry. What was the so you were explaining the backstory to the World of Darkness at this point.
Yeah. So, the whole thing is like, okay, there's this World of Darkness that presumably looks like our world, except all of it is in black and white for some reason.
It takes place in the 1950s.
Oh, darn it. I feel like then Rapthorn should have been in black and white. Because he's in full color and he looks stupid. But anyways, so this is like World of Darkness, and Rapthorn was the rule of the World of Darkness, but for some reason apparently didn't kill like all of the humans, or maybe these humans were under Imperia's protection, because there's a village in the World of Darkness version of the God Bird Island as well, and there's people living there, and they seem pretty okay. But okay, so they're fine. But Rapthorn's like the ruler of the World of Darkness, and he's like, oh, I want more power, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I want to take over the World of Light. And that was when he tried to invade the World of Light, and the Godbird and the 7 Sages sealed him away. So that's like kind of the origin. So maybe that's why the humans are okay, because Rapthorn's like technically been sealed away.
I know that in at least Dragon Quest III, the reason why that game's Dark Lord kept humans alive is because he literally lived off of despair and stuff. Like, he keeps them alive to basically just feed himself, because he survives off of human sadness. But they don't ever mention that in this game. I mean, granted, this game loves to call back to Dragon Quest III. The World of Darkness itself, it existing as a callback to Dragon Quest III's World of Darkness. And yeah, what was really disappointing about it is that you're limited to this one island, and it's the same as the island you were just on. Almost,
and it's a pretty barren island, honestly.
There's not a lot going on. There's not much to do. Like, maybe if you could go to other areas, it would. I could see that making the game feel padded. But if there were interesting puzzles involving both the light and dark world, that could be cool. Maybe. I mean, there's already a million games that do that. With
including Disney Dragon Quest VI do something like that.
Yeah, but not even just within Dragon Quest. That's several Zelda games, Metroid. It's not an original idea. I'll just leave it at that. But it wouldn't have felt so much like an ass pull, especially since there are some things that you can only get in the World of Darkness, and trying to go back and out is a pain. Because you have to go to the portal each time. You can only ever zoom to the Dark Imperia and Pichu.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was such a pain.
It's just like, okay, just let me zoom there, please. Like, what's the point of having a quick travel spell if you're not going to let me use it?
You can't use the freaking Saber Cat, like, quick walk thing on the island.
Oh, the picture quest for the Dark Saber Cat was really annoying because
you know where you had to do it.
Yeah, because you can buy like what basically is just like, okay, you're the Saber Cat that you. Oh, we never talked about the Saber Cat side quest. Damn it.
Oops.
Oh well, it's really short. Like you help this guy find his Saber Cat's ghost, and then you can ride a Saber Cat on the overworld, which is awesome. It gets you from places to place so much faster. It's great. I love it. But basically, you can buy, like in Orkutsk, you couldn't summon the Saber Cat with your normal bell there, but you could buy bells at the shop, which summon like a white Saber Cat. So you could like temporarily have one in the mountains. That makes sense. So in Dark and Pichu, you can buy Dark Saber Cat bells, which you think are for the same purpose. But they don't work in the World of Darkness. They work in a different town, which you find with the ship, with Flight afterwards. Yeah. It makes no sense. Like, I was thinking, okay, you would summon the Dark Saber Cat in the Dark World, wouldn't you? That's that's what makes sense, right?
No, silly Ted. Don't you read Yuji Horí's mind?
If I did, I would subliminally try to get him to have Dragon Quest VIII. Not Dragon Quest VIII, Dragon Quest XI come out over here. But that's probably... I really want that game to come over here. It looks so good. Anyway, but yeah, Dark World kind of sucks. It's not really all that fun. Really, all it ends up doing is making you have to go through the next dungeon 2 times because there's treasures in it for the Light World equivalent.
Yeah.
And it's not the best dungeon in the game by any stretch of the imagination either. So, what happens is the Godbird's like, okay, my baby is being held captive by this guy, Grayman is his name, I think. So, Gemin. Okay, that's what it is. I'll help you if you get my baby back. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, and she's like terrorizing the people of Mpichu because Gemin's making her do it, holding her baby hostage.
And so you're like, I'll take you there, but you gotta help me get my baby back. And you're like, okay. You go up the dungeon, you find Gemin, you fight the boss fight, you win, and then he's like, I'm not gonna die without taking the baby, and he kills the baby. So, oops, we did it again. We screwed up.
This is bad party.
We're a bad party.
Get a new one.
Oh man, but it's okay because turns out, Imperia isn't really that upset with us. She's
just like, no, my baby.
You tried your hardest, though, and...
She's like, you tried, and the baby's soul is still there, and has a really bad voice actor. No offense, except you did a bad job.
And then we get the ability to fly anyway, because the baby's soul
we get
is
the soul
in a
stone,
rock.
and I can't tell, are we, like, riding it, or do we turn into the bird? It was very unclear to me.
But I hated this part of the story, because it was... so needless. Like, again, part of what had been frustrating me about this game is that the game had been taking away victories. Like, here, the game took away the victory of saving the baby for literally no reason, because we still, Imperia still helps us after this, and we still get the ability to fly. So, why did you kill the baby?
Yeah, I honestly don't understand why the baby needed to die. Like, was it like they felt like it was too BS that the baby was born and then we could fly on the baby?
They're trying to call back to Dragon Quest III. In that game, when Ramia is born, you jump on her back immediately.
Oh, seriously?
So, yeah, the cutscene happens, she hatches, she does a little dance, and then you can fly on her immediately afterwards. So what the heck? I don't get it. So I don't know. I know that a big part of the game is not being trying to deal with failure and whatnot, but it just went overboard. I feel like if it didn't change, the plot would not have changed in any way had the baby survived. And I felt like at that point we needed to succeed at something. So, why kill the baby? Like, Yuji Horii, why did you create this living creature just for it to die? Like,
Scrock!
I only exist to feel pain.
Yeah.
So, we can fly now, I guess.
Yeah, we
That's...
have a bird. Oh, it controls like butt.
Oh, I hate the flying in this game. Like,
I hate the flying too. Like, it feels like garbage.
What annoys me, specifically, is like, okay, you're flying in full 3D. Like, the shadow on the ground, once it has a little outline around it, you press the button and you can land there. What's irritating is that the shadow on the ground and the icon on the map, on the map on the bottom screen, do not line up. Like, the shadow's, like, several feet ahead of where the icon is supposed to be. So you have to be so stupidly precise with where you have to land the bird. And if you miss, you have to go turn all the way around, and it takes forever.
This bird turns like a tank.
Yeah.
It's really awful.
Did the bird have too much to drink last night, or, like, what?
Like, it's just, yeah, like, if you, heaven forbid, you overshoot something, and accidentally fly past the thing you, like, because sometimes you're trying to land in a specific area, heaven forbid you fly past it, because you're going to have to make a very wide loop to get back to where you were trying to go.
Yeah, and the camera's not great either, so...
No, also, there was definitely some slowdown on my, because I was playing this on a old 3DS, and there was definitely some slowdown at points.
The game runs better on new 3DS. I've noticed that, where load times seem to be shorter, and the game generally just seemed to run better. So if you've got a new 3DS, then you are going to have a more smooth experience. It's not as noticeable as, say, like Hyrule Warriors Legends, but it's noticeable enough that we wanted to bring mention to it. And I like exploring the world when you have the ability to fly is still fun. Like, I still like finding new things.
It just takes forever to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Because the bird controls like garbage.
And also, the game doesn't mark where there's like a lot of hidden alcoves in the world too, like where you land in some place that, and like you're like on top of mountains you couldn't get to before, and like there's monsters there and treasures and stuff. The game doesn't mark when you've explored those areas with like a little dot, like it does with true dungeons and towns. Yep. So if you want to like go back to the Slime Hill because that's like the best place for metal grinding before you get to post game, then you're gonna have a hell of a hard time trying to find it again if you don't remember where you found it the first time. You know? Yep. So yeah, the flying is not great, but like you can fly now, I guess. Where do you have to go now that you have flying again?
So there's the first thing you can do. The first thing you can do is you can get another awesome optional cutscene if you go to. So we mentioned Sevilla Cathedral in reference to Marcello,
remember him
enjoying his favorite hobby of insulting Angelo for no reason. If you go, you find when you're there, you learn that the Lord High Priest, aka the Pope, lives in this house that's like way up top in the that you can't get to because he has a special elevator thing that you're not allowed to ride. But now we can say screw that. We have a bird and fly up there. And you get this actually really good cutscene. So it's like, oh, Marcello!
Yeah, at this point, it's 30 hours, probably.
30 hours since, if you viewed the Marcello optional cutscenes at Neos and Sevilla immediately, it's been at least 30 hours, yeah.
Yeah, and this is also optional, too. So if you don't go here, it's probably going to be like at least another 5 to 10 before you see him again.
Not that much longer, dude, because you just have to make a pit stop in Triangoli, and then you can go right back.
I guess it just depends on how much exploring you do and whether or not you miss the Lord High Priest's residence, because you might think, oh, I've already been there, I don't need to explore there anymore. And it's at this point where I feel it's easiest to get strong enough monsters to get Mori, so I spent a lot of time doing that, like exploring, finding monsters, and doing catching up on the monster arena, because it gets pretty hard before you get the bird. And once you do get the bird, you can find a lot of really good monsters, like certain golems, the gigantes, recolors, all sorts of fun stuff. So it took me a long time. I spent a lot of time faffing about with the bird, but then again, that's a playstyle difference as well. So your mileage may vary. I guess I'll just say.
So when you get to the high priest residence, you badly hide in some bushes, and I like how Trode was there for no reason, but and the Lord High Priest, who's like this super old man, and Marcello are talking, and the Lord High Priest is basically like, Marcello, I've heard rumors of you being a bastard, and Marcello is like, everyone's just jealous that I am so talented and successful. And the Lord High Priest is like, dude, Marcello, you have problems. He's basically like, it's at this point, like, it becomes very clear the Lord High Priest knows that Marcello has, like, as he puts it, he calls it, like, your overarching ambition. Basically, Marcello is so driven by this need to succeed that he will trample on anyone who stands between him and what he wants. And at this point, it's become clear to the Lord High Priest that he won't stop until he is the next Lord High Priest.
Yeah. It's a great scene, too, because you get the feeling that, like, Marcello's listening but not caring. Like, he's putting on a show at this point. Like, he doesn't respect the Lord High Priest that much. He's just like, okay, whatever. Like, all that means to him is that he has to be more careful so that the Lord High Priest doesn't catch on. So. Yeah.
And this is actually the part where the Lord High Priest says to him, like, that I didn't take you under my wing just because you're an incredibly talented and hardworking man. I also took you under my wing because the Abbot Francisco, who was a good friend of mine, asked me to look out for you. And he basically says, half of this he says after Marcello leaves, like, that the Abbot knew Marcello was dancing a fine line between being an incredibly successful man and devolving into essentially like a tyrant. And the Abbot was trying to steer him in the right direction, and the Lord High Priest is not doing a very good job taking the Abbot's place. And
the Lord High Priest knows that too, but he just doesn't know what he has to do differently. And because without the Abbot, like, Marcello there's nothing stopping Marcello emotionally from doing whatever he wants. And it's an interesting scene too. It's just, I feel we definitely needed more scenes like that because, again, this is the first time we've seen Marcello in forever. I honestly forgot that he was a part of the story for a decent amount of time because you're busy dealing with Rapthorn and Sages and all this other garbage, and that you don't, like, oh yeah, Marcello, he exists, right? And I mean, I guess
I never forgot about Marcello.
That's because
anyways, I mean, like, I'll be honest, I kind of knew going into the game, like, I accidentally got spoiled that Marcello was a big deal. So because of that, I knew to keep I knew things weren't going to end. You know, I think the problem was, here's the problem. I heard the name Marcello, like, in reference to the game in general. I said, oh, I wonder who that is. I googled Dragon Quest VIII Marcello, and one of the first things to come up on Google Images is Marcello is defeated from the boss fight.
This is why you don't look up stuff.
I know.
I tell you all the time. No, but you still do it. Why don't you listen?
I'm a bad learner.
You're a bad learner. You should get better. I should get a new Qatherine. I'm in grad school.
I got to learn.
I should get a new Qatherine. But yeah, so you can get that cutscene. You can go to Tyrant Gully, which is a fun place.
I think you have to go to Tyrant Gully to get
to get the leaf so that you can find where Rapthorn actually is. But the Tyrant Gully is a fun.
The dog.
Sir Leopold's, who's basically Rapthorn at this point. But like it's a fun monster town, Tyrant Gully, and you get to actually control King Trode on the overworld, which is really fun.
Yeah. He's so silly, and he has like his own poses for the photo quest in the 3DS version. And one of my favorite things about Tyrant Gully, and this is something they mention, it's one of the things in the photo quest as well, that the church there is run by an imp, and he talks in, like, everything he says is in, like, he's very sassy, and he also, like, does the imp thing where S is like
he has a lisp.
So he's like, this church belongs to the goddess and to me. What do you want?
And like it's not just like in a lot of things, like in a lot of Dragon Quest things, like characters will have like if you talk to a shopkeeper behind the counter, like they'll have that region's accent, and then when you go in front of the counter, they'll be like, "Hello, what do you want to buy?" In normal words. The imp goes through all of the church stuff, like resurrection, curse lifting, and all that stuff in character.
Yep.
And it's just really, really funny. I'm wondering what he says if you turn the game on, having saved the game at that cathedral. Actually,
I can try to do that. But yeah, the one I remember Ted was over and I was showing him, I was fooling around with the imp priest, and we cursed Angelo, and like we gave him a cursed item, and then had the imp priest remove it, and he's like, so who needs the curse removed? And so we were like, Angelo. He's like, okay, hey you. Curse! Yeah, I'm talking to you. Get out of Angelo's body right now.
it's hilarious.
And if you try to have him like bring someone back to life who's not actually dead, he's like, "Are you out of your mind? Angelo is very much alive. Stop wasting my time."
Yeah, and you can talk to like a lips at the monster lips at the bar, and and then like you can flirt with her.
Oh yeah.
And it's great. I love the monsters in Dragon Quest are so full of personality and character that like I always love seeing friendly monsters, because then you get to like see their little quirks and whatnot, and like they even have like a walking corpse running the shop and a restless armor, and I think even a bomb boulder runs one of the shops.
I think there's an arc demon running one of the shops. Oh yeah, and then if you I just got to the church. And if you're there at night, he's like, "Do you have any idea what time it is? What brings you to my church at this insane hour of the night?"
Oh, man. But it's just great. You go there and you find out that, oh no, like these guys were trying to protect the sage. Like they kind of lost where the sage's lineage had been. But they have this...
This was David.
Yeah. Oh, that was David? Oh, I thought that they were the seventh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Oh, so when you quit, by the way, when you quit from the imp, he says, "So be it. Go on, rest. See if I care." And I'm about to reload, and then we can see what what lovely insight imp priest has to share.
Yeah, but basically,
here we go. I feel your back, King Twode. If you ever forget which way to go because you've been lazy and taken too long a break, speak to your party members for advice. You lot certainly are a handful. Come on, pull yourselves together. Now shoot!
Oh, man. Like, it's just great. But you go to Tyrant Gully, it actually is plot important because you get the Dark Tree Leaf, I think it's called.
Yeah,
it basically puts a little marker on the map that shows where Rapthorn is at any given point. So you like fly to the point, and you'll see Sir Leopold on the screen, and you have to follow him, and he goes directly to, oh my gosh, the Lord High Priest's house. Oh man, who could have ever seen that coming, right?
What a twist! So you get there, and you get there, and like, oh, I don't know where Marcello is, but apparently evil Sir Leopold burst through the window, and High Priest Rollo, the High Priest that you only know who he is if you viewed that optional cutscene on Neos. I really hope no one missed that optional cutscene on Neos.
There's also Rollo's there too, and if you missed the optional cutscene...
No, that's what I'm saying, that Rollo's the one that if you didn't view that optional cutscene on Neos, you're going to be like, who's this weirdo?
Well, you wouldn't really know or care anything about the Lord High Priest. I thought you were talking about the Lord High Priest's cutscene. If you missed that too, you really wouldn't know or care anything about him.
Yeah.
It'd just be like, oh, we gotta save the Pope because he's the Pope.
Yeah. So Rollo's like, can you like do something about this crazy dog? And tell the Lord High Priest I was the one who sent you.
Yeah. He's a really scummy kind of guy.
Yeah, you immediately get that vibe. And so, you beat up the evil dog. Like, that was a pretty, like, sort of standard boss fight, I felt like. He didn't really have any special tricks.
But you do beat him, and, like, you kill the dog, and the scepter drops on the floor. You save the Lord High Priest. He's not dead yet.
I think he was unconscious, but, yeah, he clearly is not dead. And then Marcello comes into the room.
And he just decides to throw you in jail. Because he's a prick like that.
I think at this point Marcello realizes the Lord High Priest is now in a very weakened state, and he was an old man already. He sees you guys, and I think he just he just loves to throw Angelo under the bus. And he sees Rollo, who he has good reason to hate, and he decides to throw Rollo under the bus as well, and blames Rollo and you for conspiring to have the Lord High Priest killed. And apparently, with no trial, you guys get thrown in jail. But if Red and Mori, this is the part where if Red and Mori were in your party for the evil Sir Leopold boss fight, they skedaddle. And
I had both of them in my party during that boss fight. So it was like me, Jessica, Red, and Mori, I think, or maybe Yangus, I really don't remember. And then, like, it's just like, okay. And then suddenly, I think in the cutscene after, Angelo and Yangus are there now, and I'm like, what? I mean, granted, like, they had to throw the main cast in there, but I don't see why they didn't just have Red and Mori be thrown into the... Oh, no, wait, because they're only... So many people could fit into the cage in the Purgatory Island sequence. That's dumb. I mean, like, granted, one thing that I do like is later on they established that it's such a corrupt church police state that, like, people could just be thrown in there without any trial and, like, never come out. Because Purgatory Island is a place where, like, people get sent to forever, and it's considered, like, the worst prison on the planet. And one thing that
I ran into it before, like, long before we got thrown in, because it's on the map and you can go in, but you can't actually, like, see the bottom part.
You can see the island as soon as you get the ship. I forgot where the island was, so it didn't go inside. Like, because you can go inside the top floor as soon as you get the ultimate key, but I didn't go there because I forgot that island existed. But one thing that I really like is before they really go into the Purgatory Island stuff, like, the screen fades away and we see Marcello and he picks up Rathorn's scepter and you're like, oh crap. So they fade back, like, Marcello's walking through, I think it's either the manor or Sevilla Cathedral, and suddenly Rapthorn comes and he's like being like, you are now under my control, and Marcello is like, I'm controlled by no one. And so the scepter tries to, like, cover his arms in thorns to get him under control, and Marcello starts cutting them away, and he is able to resist the power of the scepter. And at that point, when I was playing the game, my jaw literally dropped. I was like, oh shit, is Marcello actually going to be the main villain of the game? Like, that was such a cool moment, because at this point, it had been established that, like, Dual Magus was a relatively weak person. He got dominated very easily. Domenico was a dog, and even though Jessica is a very fiery person and probably, like, according to the game, would have a strong will, she got corrupted too. So, like, since Rapthorn's, like, literally the embodiment of evil in this game, the fact that he could take control of the scepter without succumbing to it, like, shows that he means business. And you would actually...
This was another sort of example of that they had to change things for the remake to maintain the Sero A rating. So in the remake, Marcello takes out a dagger, starts cutting the vines off, and then conjures a fireball to, like, burn off the rest of the vines. In the original, he takes the dagger that he's been using to cut off the vines and stabs his own arm to, like, and I think that what they were going for with that is that the pain of being stabbed allows him to focus enough to, like, get himself out of Rapthorn's control. And just the sort of desperate, I mean, you know, this isn't quite as big of a change as, like, the whole thing with the dog food scene, but the desperate, like, the sort of determination and desperation of, like, stabbing your own arm, that was like, whoa. But, you know, it still is a striking scene even with the change, so.
Yeah, it was really, really, really cool for me. Like, that was the point where I was just like, oh man, they've got something really good going on here. Like, I had been having a little bit of issues with the game's pacing up to this point, but that scene and the Purgatory Island sequence in particular, like, turned me around on the game like in an instant. I was glued to my screen for that entire time. And the Purgatory Island sequence is long too.
One of my favorite lines in the game is when after Marcello gets himself back. Well, first of all, his delivery of "I obey no one," and just telling Rapthorn, and then once he gets under control, he's like, "I'm notoriously bad at taking orders." And I was like, yeah, you are. But then I love there's so many subtle touches in that scene, because Marcello, now that he's back under his own control, he lifts his hand as if he's about to like smash the scepter on the ground, and then he pauses and like puts it down, and then he keeps walking and he like taps the scepter against the ground, and there's this really foreboding sort of echoing noise, and it's like,
yeah.
Marcello, at this point you realize, and you also get a scene where Rollo's talking, and he basically says, like, I was using Marcello for my own advancement, but it turns out he was using me too. And this, like, it's the same mindset that Marcello is like, this scepter, if I can use it, I will have so much power. And
but he's not dumb
enough.
Yeah, but he's not dumb, too. He, like, his first thought is, okay, I don't want to deal with this thing anymore. I just should get rid of it. And then he's like, wait, but what if I use it? And, like, the thing is that the Purgatory Island sequence takes months, I believe.
1 month. It's exactly 1 month.
So you're in there for a long time, and my entire, like, the thought in the back of my mind is, what the hell is he doing this entire time?
Yeah.
Like, what's Marcello up to? Because you have no idea what's going on. You're, like, locked in prison, no contact with the outside world, and you're just like, okay, like, now what? And it's just always in the back of your mind, because you know that this guy is a scheming, conniving bastard, and he will do literally anything to get himself into power, and he has all the power he needs to get himself into like a literal world domination setting. Yep. So and also, like, once you do get control of the characters again, the hero again, then you get the flashback scene with young hero Medea, which is also another one of my favorites as well.
That was added for the 3DS version.
It was?
I believe that was not in the original.
Oh, that's such a good scene, though. Yep. It's like, it ties in, like, I thought that was, like, necessary to have in that point, because, like, that scene, basically, like, you find out that Medea was the one who, like, Medea, she lost her mother around the time, right before she met the hero, 8. And one little touch that I liked a lot is that, like, you see Medea crying and walking through the woods, and she looks up, you see kind of like a ghostly figure of her mother smiling, and then she fades away, like, oh, her mom's dead. But the mother actually looks exactly like Medea when she's older, which I thought was really cool, in that it explains why Trode is so protective of his daughter, not just because, like, she's the princess, but also that she's like his living memory of his wife too. And it's not something that's ever said in words, but I thought that was really, really cool when I noticed it. So that was awesome. But then, like, Medea, like, sees Munchie, and Munchie comes over to her, and she's like, oh, it's a cute mouse. And then she leads Munchie to 8, and he's, like, on the floor, nearly dead, I think, or really sick.
He's got a fever, yeah. He's feverish, and
he was out in the rain for 5 minutes, and now he's gonna die, because, you know, that Japanese constitution in anime.
Oh, man. Heaven forbid you get mildly damp in the rain.
But yeah, so you go back, and, like, this is the first thing Medea has done actively since her mother died, and she brings the guards back, and they save 8, and, like, you get the scene, like, you find out how they became friends and whatnot, and I thought that was so sweet. And
Medea's like, you know, while eight's asleep, like, recovering, she, like, waits by his bedside and looks after him. So yeah, it was a really sweet scene. And the whole thing with Purgatory Island, like, it's a very depressing prison. It's not the best, like, awful sequence in Dragon Quest, I'll say that.
What do you mean by that?
DQ5?
Oh, you're talking about it's not the best depressing sequence in Dragon Quest. It's got issues, but I like what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I just kept thinking, like why are there like 10 people in one cell, and why, like, like, practically, I was just like, dude, Jessica would not survive one night in here with these bastards.
No, she was raised with a silver spoon shoved straight up her
Well,
ass.
dude, you have to remember, okay, like, the party's not going to try anything. There are 4 other people in here who all have death penalty. And a woman like Jessica walks through the door. What do you think is going to happen to Jessica?
No, well, here's the thing. I didn't think that was ever going to happen because they established that everybody in there is so devoid of hope that they've given up on doing anything. Like, the most aggressive we see any of the people is like one guy is just sitting near the puddle and he's like, "This is my water. Back away."
And the game like specifically says the water is like cloudy and gross looking. And it's like, yeah, that was a good line. That the fact that this guy was so territorial about like this crappy pile of water. But
and most of the other people are too depressed to move, though, as well. Yeah. They established that.
Including Angelo. Including Angelo, who almost every time you try to talk to Angelo, he either does not talk to you, literally, because no one's in your party anymore. You have to like go around to talk to them. Angelo likes to lean against the bars and either not say anything when you try to talk to him or be like, "I've got a lot on my mind right now. Can you give me some space?" And I'm like,
and again, that's one of the biggest problems with Angelo is
like,
that
your brother just betrayed you and threw you in prison to die. Do you want to talk about it?
We're here to help, Angelo. We can give you a hug if you want one. Like, again, like, I can totally understand him in character not wanting to talk to anyone, but that doesn't make for a very interesting story.
No.
Either.
Especially because, like, there's going to be events, like, you know, we'll get to it when we get to it, but there's events coming up where clearly Angelo's been thinking about a lot of things with regards to his brother, but we are privy to none of it as the player.
Yeah.
You know?
What we are privy to is Rollo, who he comes in and he's just basically very dejected at this point. He was just like, I was going to be Lord High Priest. I was next in line. I was this close, and now I'm in prison. Like, he wallows in self-pity a lot, and then you see him, like, he actually starts praying a lot, and because I think he mentioned something about, like, it, like, you know, he hadn't done a lot of it lately because it was more about the politics than the religion.
I think he said something about. I think he says something like this is the first time, like, Goddess, this is the first time I like actually am praying to you, like, with my, you know,
with my
with
heart,
like all of my heart, you know.
Yeah, because it was all about power, not God, for him.
And there's
Goddess.
a part where, so it's established. You kind of learn that the guards. There's 2 guards, and they change shift, like I think like once a day. And there's a part where it
either
just
once a day
Rollo's,
or every 12 hours. Every 2 hours. 12
there's
hours.
There's a part where it shows Rollo by the bars, and you can see Rollo. You can't see outside the bars, and you can hear the noise of the guards using like the elevator type thing they use to change shifts. And so you just see like Rollo standing by the bars and just looking like really like sad and like if I remember correctly, he gets like increasingly dejected looking and just like depressed.
Yeah. He becomes like regretful, like, you know, I had the ability to do so much good, and like I wasted
people
it.
Here. That's the thing too, is Rollo mentions as you're going down there, like, I sent a not insignificant, like, I sent multiple people down here in like myself, you know, and he's like, I never knew it was like, I never realized what it was like. I guess it kind of makes me think of like how people talk about like solitary confinement and how like it's an awful experience, and like I feel like it was that sort of thing where he just like was like, yeah, like these people can go like rot in prison until they die, and didn't really think about what that feels like, and like, and whether, you know, realize that whatever, like, these people didn't deserve it, you know?
Yeah, and
like, because that's the thing down here, like, I feel like none of these people actually deserve to be down there.
Like, I'm sure there are real criminals down there as well, but I'm sure none of them, like, they deserve to be in like a normal prison where they like got decent and like maybe not decent food, but they got food that's actually edible and like light and air
and
like
bed.
And something, and like maybe the chance of getting out one day. Because
Yeah.
basically, the only implication is that people down here are only down here because they pissed some politician off, basically.
A church higher up, I would say specifically.
Well, they're honestly, in this universe, they're basically the same thing. So,
I mean, the kingdoms are separate from the church organization.
yeah, but the church seems to be the one that holds the most power, though, is the thing, because the church is, like, universal. Like, they had the, like, this is kind of jumping ahead, but they have the wedding that's unifying the two kingdoms specifically at the church. Like, not just because it's a goddess unifying thing, but also, like, that's where it's supposed to be because it's, I don't know. I felt like the church held a significant amount of power, even when compared to the kingdoms, you know?
Anyway, so we're down there for a month. Prison changes people. I don't know, someone might have gotten a tattoo or two. I think we formed a new gang.
Yeah.
Yangus was the leader. Yangus made sure nobody hurt the Gov.
Nope, the Gov's my bitch. You want to get to him, you gotta go through me.
8 blinks confusedly.
Yeah. Now, Rollo's transformation is something that I'm conflicted about because it feels very quick in terms of the story. I mean, in terms of, like, actual time, it's a full month, so it makes sense. But in terms of what you're shown, it feels like the guy went from being, like, the slimiest slime ball to being, like really, like, a utter paragon of goodness, I guess. Like, he still feels plenty of regret, and one of my favorite scenes in the game is when they come up with the plan to escape. And
well, yeah, so the reason they decide, all right, we really got to escape, is the guards are chatting while they're changing shift, and you find out, oh, the Lord High Priest cocked it about a month ago, and yeah, and there's a new, like, Lord High Priest that's been selected, and he's gonna be, like, inaugurated at Neos, and Rollo's like, you know what I thought as soon as they said that the Lord High Priest had been killed?
yeah, they said he
Marcello has
was sick.
something to do with this.
They said
Yeah.
he got sick, and you're like, that
No,
they
no,
never
no.
elaborate. Wait, they don't say that?
No, the reason that they give for the Lord High Priest dying officially is that he slipped and fell off, like, the like, because his crib is, like, super high up, right, on, like, the
Yeah.
mountains.
They
That
say
he
he fell off
slipped
the
and
balcony?
fell. Yeah, he fell. He just fell literally off the mountain. He
That
fell-
is, yeah, you're supposed to think it's bullshit. You're
Yeah,
supposed to think that Marcello literally killed him. It's,
Yeah.
again, like, I would have liked another line of dialogue somewhere, like an NPC thing, where they imply a little bit more directly that Marcello actually
No, there is
killed
one.
him.
Ted, there
There
is
is?
one. There's a maid there's a maid or someone you talk to. I believe it's in Savella. I think it's in the Lord High Priest's mansion. There's someone you can talk to who says, I know what they're saying, but it's not true. I saw the hole in his body. There was a big hole right through his body as though he'd been stabbed with something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's-
they
there's-
never say it's Marcello, but, like, if Marcello didn't do it, then he ordered
Like,
someone to
who
do
else
it.
had the scepter, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and
Oh
the
yeah, and he
stab
had to
would-
have been killed with the scepter because
Yeah.
otherwise Rapthorn wouldn't have. But anyway, yeah, it's
So, okay, so Rollo's like, all right, we need to because Rollo, I think, actually does care a bit about the Lord High Priest, and, like, he doesn't feel right about anything that's happened, and he feels like Marcello's got to be responsible for this. So he's like, all right, we need to figure out a way to get out of here. And this is, like, one of my favorite scenes. I agree.
oh with the yeah. Well, I was talking more emotionally, but just in terms of humor, it's funny because they do
These-
really bad acting, and it's just like, oh no, my gold rosary,
the
my stomach.
pain is unbearable. And then I love Yangus's voice actor doing intentionally bad acting. He's like, "Hoi, what's wrong with you? You swallowed your gold rosary. What you going to do that for?"
And then
and he's like dancing. It looks ridiculous.
And
But it was super funny.
basically, their plan is to make the guards think that he's gonna poop out a gold rosary, and then they'll be able to sell it, so that they open the doors, and then they
Yep.
jump the guards. But oh no, there's not enough room to get everybody. Like you have to pull the lever in order to get everybody
Someone
up.
needs to stay behind to basically press the button to make the thing go up. And they're like, oh. And then we start deciding, all right, who's the least useful? Well, I kind of want Angela's healing at this point. But Yangus is our tank. And then Rolo's like, I'll do it. I'm not a playable character. So I'm going to stay behind and pull this lever and attempt to redeem myself. You guys go figure out what happened.
I actually do really like the scene where he says, "You're not going to find any gold rosary. Do with me what you will." Like he accepts that he is going to get the shit beaten out of him and might die, but like he feels like he deserves it, which it felt like I felt like the redemption here I think is better than like Domenico, because it felt like it's not like he feels like he actually is trying to make up for his deed in a way that actually like feels like he has to pay a price, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
Domenico just felt bad but didn't really do anything. Rolo made a sacrifice.
Yeah, and he said, like, I've done terrible things, so I know in order to make it better, I can't make it better, but I can do this, and it's going to involve me getting the shit kicked out of me, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know that it's what I have to do. And so it was a little rushed, but I did ultimately like what they did with Rolo, I think.
I agree, and you can't go back there, unfortunately. So like somehow he got out. But
yeah, it's implied that he's the Lord High Priest. Because at the end of the game, he's the one officiating the wedding. Like they never establish how he got out or what, but he's fine, I guess. Okay,
he's
whatever.
Right. He never swallowed that gold rosary, so.
Yeah, I don't like. Did we like go and after we beat the final boss, we were like, oh crap, Rolo's still down there. Should we like...
Well, we can't go down. How'd we get down there? We broke the elevator coming up.
We slide down the chain? I don't know.
A mystery for another day.
But yeah, so at this point, you can either continue on with the plot or like futz around and do side quests.
I went and got Mori.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, at this point, I got out of Purgatory Island and I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna go try to get Mori.
That is probably the best time to do it because you want him before the end of the game. Because at this point, you are very, very close to endgame. Especially in the PS2 version as well, because the 3DS version added some content at the end. So
then you go and you find out you run into Trode and Medea, who just happened to park the ship right next to Purgatory Island, right when you got out. But that's convenient. So and they're like, Marcello is appointed to be the next Lord High Priest, and you're like, oh, what a surprise. And the inauguration is going to take place as soon as you get to Neos and get inside the stadium thing at Neos.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's convenient.
Yeah.
So
let's go advance the plot.
Yep. So we go to Neos and we sneak inside the place where Marcello's getting inaugurated, and Marcello gives an amazing speech.
The speech is really great. The speech is awesome. Like the Marcello, we were talking about how Marcello's voice actor is one of the best in the game. In terms of drama, I think he is straight up the best in the game. Like Marcello's not a comedic character, obviously, but like in terms of like, because the speech he's giving at this point, it's like it does like you are reminded of why you are supposed to feel somewhat sympathetic for him, because he says stuff like yeah, I was born with common blood. I'm not supposed to be here, but I worked here and I got here of my own worth. And like you do feel like, and you do feel somewhat bad for him, but like you also remember that like he got there of his own worth, but only by building a ladder of bodies, pretty much. So and then you fight him.
And at this point, when he's there, he's holding the scepter the whole time in one hand. But he seems to be quite clear, like he seems to be under his control. But it's actually funny because right before you fight him, he gets like when he says to you basically like that, like we're gonna fight, I'll destroy you. His voice gets the dual audio effect.
It does.
For like 2 words. But
okay, I didn't. Yeah. I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah. So then you fight Marcello.
That was a fun fight. It was
a long fight, but it wasn't.
Yeah, he has
I never
a lot
felt
of health.
like I was gonna lose. I just felt like it was taking forever.
Yeah, it was.
But it was tough, and it was.
It was. Yeah, it was great.
It was good too. What I liked was like he had he hit you with his sword. He used Kafrizzle, but he also used he would use like Pearly Gates basically, which is like one of the abilities Angelo learns.
He uses like monk and priest abilities,
yes,
like stuff that
really
player characters would use. It was pretty cool. It's a great fight. Here's it's frustrating because what happens, like the stuff with Marcello at the end of the game is fantastic, and then I feel like right after the ball gets dropped immediately because when you beat Marcello, basically that releases Marcello's control over Rapthorn for just long enough.
He's weakened and Rapthorn can overtake him.
And
because
so,
I mean, clearly, I think what they were going for, where I mentioned the fact that you heard the dual audio very briefly before you fought Marcello. I think what that was going for is to imply that while Marcello's holding Rapthorn off and keeping his own will, it's tough. That he's barely hanging on. And when you defeat him, like you don't kill him, but he's weak enough that Rapthorn can take control. And so Marcello very briefly, I feel like they paid an intern like for a few hours to make the Marcello possessed by Rapthorn model. Because Marcello is briefly possessed by Rapthorn. And this, I know, like, we have our issues with the events that happen, but this is cool when he, like, throws the scepter into the statue, the giant statue of the goddess on Neos, and then, like, the statue starts to fall apart, and you just see, like, glowing from, like, the broken eye socket.
Yeah, because this is hidden lore that's not really super important, but the statue of the goddess was made to hide the Rapthorn's castle. I think if you talk to people in Neos, like way earlier in the game, they mention like that there's this giant statue of the goddess, and that's why Neos is considered a holy place, and people go on a pilgrimage there. But nobody really knows who built the statue. Like it was from the time of the 7 great sages, but no one knows, did the goddess build? Like, was it made by the goddess? Did the sages make it? And this reveals that the sages made the statue to hide Rapthorn's like body and like castle thing. Yeah. So it turns out like, okay, we're not gonna. This is what's really disappointing about it.
We screwed up big time.
Because we did screw up big time. But in terms of the game's story, this was massively disappointing. Because again, like I mentioned, how like odd I was when it was like, oh man, is Marcello actually going to be the big bad? Because Dragon Quest follows a pretty traditional pattern where the bad guy is generally like a big, like monolithic evil. Like there's not really too much nuance to the main villain most of the time. You get some shades of that with characters like Sorrow occasionally, but for the most part, the villain is the demon lord for the specific game. Is pretty much just like, wahaha, I'm going to take over the world. And Rapthorn falls into that category easily. But I thought that the twist where Marcello was going to be the main villain, or at least like the Phase 1 final boss, like I thought that was really cool, because that's such a neat twist on the classic tradition, where it's just like I was thinking, oh, is the final boss going to be like a cathedral filled with like goddess imagery instead of the traditional demonic stuff? Like, my mind was racing with how many cool things that they could do, and Marcello, being such a nuanced and interesting character, would be a far better final villain than just another, mwahaha, I want my body back, demon lord, you know? And then, it's just, nope, it's Rapthorn. That's just it. He's going to come back to life and take over the world, and I was severely disappointed. I mean, granted, Marcello's, like, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about Marcello's like exile scene, a bit, because Marcello isn't done, but like in that scene still great, but I was just like, oh, it's just Rapthorn, and I felt very let down at that point. What did you think, Qatherine?
I mean, I kind of knew, like, both, I felt like I hadn't even considered the idea until we were talking about it, that, like, how cool it would have been to have Marcello as, like, like, not that his role didn't end there.
Yeah.
But I agree. It feels like they should have done that because, you know, yeah, but let's talk about what ends up happening.
With
Because,
Marcello.
yeah, because, okay, like, Marcello's about to fall off and die, and he's kind of, like, half accepting it, and Angelo grabs him and saves him.
Oh, but it's not just that. Like, he grabs Marcello's hand, and Marcello at first pushes Angelo's hands away, and then Angelo goes back and reaches him back up, which is awesome.
And Marcello's just like, and this I think is when you realize, like, why Marcello was doing everything he did. He's like, I was so close. I could have had all of Rapthorn's power. This is all your fault. It's very Marcello to, like, he doesn't take the blame for anything. He blames other people for his failings. But Angelo is like, no, I won't let you die. You will go on living knowing that the brother you hated your whole life took pity on you. And he drags Marcello up. And I will say, at that point, I feel like 8 should have helped. Because that would have been a nice callback to how 8 saved Yangus.
I don't know. Like, again,
maybe
Angelo needed that. Angelo needed that scene. It needed to be about him.
But why? Because we had no reason. And it came out of nowhere. That's the thing. Like, I love that scene.
Did.
Because I love that scene. I love the tragedy of it. I love the way Marcello says to Angelo, like, you will regret the day you saved my life. And the fact that Angelo was just like, you know what? Do whatever you want. I don't care. You can't hurt me anymore. But I was just like, what changed, Angelo? Because I didn't see it. I don't know what happened.
If it would have been perfect if we knew what was going on in Angelo's head that entire time is the thing. Like, the scene where Marcello walks away injured and dejected out of Neos, everybody just staring. I loved that scene. I thought that was, like, the perfect note for Marcello to leave the story. Like, at least in physical form, Like, it's just like, he worked so hard. He worked so hard to get to where he was, and he has to, and he's basically brought down to nothing. I thought that was a perfect end for that character. Like, he doesn't even get the supposed dignity of dying. He has to live with, like, with failure, I think. Thought that was a great ending. Like, I know that you disagree about the ambiguity about the character, but that, like, I mean, maybe some NPC dialogue about where he went or what he was doing could do that, but in terms of, like, Marcello's last physical appearance on screen, I thought that ending was perfect. And we'll get to 3DS stuff later, but I loved the way that he exited the story. It's just, I agree with you that we get so little of Angelo at this point, throughout the entire game, that even though this feels like it should be a scene where Angelo, like, it feels like it should close up Angelo's character arc to have him save Marcello, none of that arc was present to the viewer. Angelo was too busy, like, pretending to flirt with women and pretending he's all cool and not talking about his feelings, that we don't get to know anything about what's going on in his head.
I saw the beginning and I saw the end, and everything, like, 90% of what was in between and the journey was a black box where Angelo would not open up and let me understand what was going on. I had no idea, like, I get, like, he saved his brother, but I don't know, like, did something change? Would he always have saved Marcello? Like, what? And I feel like the answer is probably yes, because of what Angelo says. Like, he never forgot that once upon a time, before Marcello knew what he was, Marcello was a kind person to Angelo at a time when he was desperate for someone to be kind to him. But I didn't see any of that. Angelo never talked about And I think part of the problem is that Marcello disappears from the story for a huge chunk in the middle. So we don't have a chance for Angelo to talk about that. We don't have a chance
Or
to see
even
how
if it,
Angelo feels about Marcello.
and even if it wasn't Marcello, we could see how we could glean more of how he thinks about Marcello through his relationships with other people. Like his womanizing, we don't really know if he actually is a playboy or if he's just doing that to like pretend, like if he's doing that to cover up other feelings or like and things like that. Like we get so little character interaction with Angelo that like we get glimpses of it where like he doesn't understand emotions sort of because he's blunted kind of because of his environment, but it's such a like had this had been nailed, like they had the perfect ending to a story that wasn't written all the way yet.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the hugely frustrating because it irritates me in games when I can see something get so close and whiff. You know, it's like that's my biggest pet peeve when it comes to these sorts of things. Is it could have been fantastic, and it missed at the most important part, and
Yeah. And
so
as far as like Marcello, leaving the story, it frustrates me because I agree. Like there is something so tragic about Marcello just walking away broken and angry, and like the last thing he does is he takes his Templar captain ring and throws it back for Angelo, and like just leaving behind that was that was where it all began, was that he was the captain of the Templars, and he throws that away. He feels like he's lost everything already, so like he can throw this away too.
I got the idea that he didn't think he was worth it anymore as well. Like it's just
Yeah.
like I screwed up this. I don't like. I'm not even just back to where I was at the beginning of all this. I'm less than
Yes.
that. That's
Yeah,
what I
exactly.
got as well.
Like it's like he's not going back to that. He's not going back to Myella Abbey ever. But I just like it was a couple things. First of all, this in the PS2 version, so we find out something what we'll talk about later. Marcello's not gone in 3DS version.
No.
In the PS2 version, this was it. You never saw Marcello again. You never to my knowledge, I think Angelo mentions if you go to pick him at one point, like he doesn't think Marcello will end up there because Marcello's like too like he doesn't think Marcello
Proud.
would stoop that low. Yeah. But I mean it's one of those things like you never found out what happened. And on one hand, there's something cool about that kind of mystery, like, but people, there were all sorts of theories. There were theories that like he ended up destitute in Pickham. There were theories that he went and killed himself anyways, that he died in the desert of Neos, because how the crap was he going to get off Neos? Nobody knew. I mean, no one thought he was going to have a happy ending, but
He doesn't deserve a happy ending to me.
Okay, so I guess with Marcello, the thing was that he spent his entire life, basically from the moment Angelo came to the Abbey, just driven by this hatred of his situation in life, and had this ridiculous ambition and drive to make himself better than that. Again, that like hunger for power thing that drives a lot of the characters in this game. And I felt like just, the Lord High Priest actually says, like, you had a good heart, Marcello, but you could lose it. And I just wanted to see him with some kind of peace. And not necessarily that he needs to be like, that we need to see him as happy or anything like that, but just that, that he has something in his life other than the hatred that he's lived with and that has driven him for so long. I don't necessarily feel like I needed to see him smile, but I wanted to see not the furrowed brow. You know what I mean?
I get what you're going
I wanted
for.
personally.
I do get what you're going for. And Marcello is a very sympathetic character in a lot of ways. I agree with you, where it's just like he certainly had a lot of reason to hate his situation. Like I certainly don't blame him for being resentful of Angelo. Like Angelo didn't deserve it, but you certainly can't blame him for not wanting to live with the reminder that of like this is the reason why he didn't have even something that he could pretend was a happy family. You know, I get that, but at the same time, a person is not their situation and their circumstances. A person is how they react to their circumstances. And, like, again, like, we're supposed to see Angelo and Marcello as mirrors of each other. And, like, Angelo also lost his family. He's also resentful of his situation, but Angelo also didn't murder people. Like, Angelo didn't starve the monks. Angelo didn't kill the Lord High Priest. Angelo didn't throw people in prison for no good reason, and Angelo didn't literally try to take over the world. Like, granted, you're supposed to feel some pity and some sympathy for Marcello. Like, you can understand how he got himself into this situation, but at some point, like, I felt like Marcello, this character, is holding on to these things that he perceives are injustices, and they might have been unjust, but at some point, you cannot use something bad that happens to you as an excuse to do wrong to other people. That's the thing, and that's part of what makes him a great villain is that he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, or at least he doesn't feel bad about anything.
He won't ever admit it. He won't ever apologize for what he's done.
And that's part of why I don't really care for, like, that's why I don't really think that the character deserves any sort of redemption or any sort of happiness, at least because he doesn't realize that the problem was, he doesn't ever realize, I think, that part of the problem was himself. Like you mentioned that, like, Marcello will not admit ever that anything was his fault. And until he realizes that, I don't think that the character really, like, the character didn't earn its way to, he didn't earn his way to, like, I mean, it would be great, like, if maybe Angelo and him can find a little bit of peace, but at the end of the day, he's still a murderer, and he still did tons of terrible things, so I can't, like, maybe, like, he could end up in a Rolo situation where he tries to make up for what he did in some way, but the way the character is portrayed, I don't think he would ever do that, and I don't think that, you know what, let's talk about Juggaroth, because we can both agree, we don't necessarily agree on whether or not, like, Angelo is entirely sympathetic or whether or not he deserved to find peace, but I think we both agree that if there was a way to get Marcello to be redeemed, it wasn't the way that the 3DS version did it. Right?
No, because, alright, we'll just make it brief, because, like, the 3DS version introduced a new dungeon that you go to,
but you have to walk through the Dragon's Graveyard again, because, you know, padding.
And then, basically, you find out one of Rapthorn's minions, this guy called the Juggaroth, was trapped in stone by the sages, and he's probably waking up right about now, so you should go and, like, kick his butt. So you go to his dungeon, you do that, and you kick his butt in his first form, and then he's like, haha, fooled you, I'm gonna kill you all right now. And then out of nowhere, it's somewhat alluded to because Angelo does mention something. You see mysterious
footsteps and stuff.
And Angelo mentions something about the way you find the dungeon is Jessica has a vision, and Angelo wonders if it's related to the fact that she was possessed by Rapthorn, and he muses about, well, there's someone else who was possessed by Rapthorn, meaning Marcello. And so, oh hey, Marcello followed us to the Juggaroth, and Marcello, Othello, the game.
Yeah, the game. I don't know why they do this, because anytime they have, like, an extra character, the game glitches out the text. So Marcello joined you for the second phase of the boss fight as, like, a bonus 5th character, but they call him Othello. And it's just like, this is not Shakespeare, and this is not the only time it happens, because we mentioned Prince Charmles gets a different name, and, like, certain monsters have abilities that, like, confuse or summon other monsters, and the names are mixed up for that, too. I used Angelo's Needle Shot ability in order to insta-kill an enemy one time, and it said, like, name redacted in the battle text. There's a lot of weird text issues with Dragon Quest.
Redacted.
Yeah, it was just, like, it couldn't find the right text, so it pulled up some, like, default, like, all caps in brackets junk.
Man, I would have loved if it just pulled up, like, I would love if it just read it wrong and, like, for some reason it pulled up the sexy beam or something. It pulled up the puff puff.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So
so that aside, Marcello helps you as an uncontrollable fifth character, um, and then so Ted didn't think to bring Angelo in the party.
well,
Um,
no, I had kind of dropped him at that point because Angelo to me was the least important character. Like his big thing is he's got healing, but Jessica at that point I had already learned Hustle Dance, and that combined with a few other things, like I think you do have a Sage's Stone by this point. Like I didn't need Angelo for healing, so my team was like either Hero Red Jessica Mori or Hero Red Jessica Yangus. Like I had dropped, Angelo is usually the first person I drop. So, and I didn't catch the Marcello hints. Like I was just like, oh, who's this mysterious person? I didn't think Marcello at that point because I didn't actually find the Juggernaut side quest until after the until after a certain dungeon. You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah. To be
so,
fair, you told me to go back into Neos to trigger the Juggeroth.
Yeah, it's very easy to miss too, because so I don't know, but whatever. But
so then Angelo, after you defeat the Juggeroth, Angelo's like, Marcello, why are you here? Literally is what he says, is, why did you come here, Marcello? And Marcello's like, I came to settle a score. You could have died in a ditch for all I cared, little brother, but not before my debt was repaid. And now it is.
And then he leaves.
He leaves. And Angelo does say, like, thank you. And Marcello kind of smiles. And then he's gone.
It was lame, honestly.
Thanks.
I think it was, again, the character, I do not think, like, we see that, like, Marcello acts smug and whatnot, and he's not going to change his personality at all. Like, but he didn't seem like he had done any thinking about his life. He didn't seem like he had, like, rethought what he was doing.
He didn't say enough. All he really said, like, he said so little. And I really think, and I said, so this is a thing I really strongly think, I think Marcello should have been an added character. Like, I don't think necessarily, like, after the like, as is, I think it wouldn't have made sense for him to join you after the Juggeroth. But
Agreed.
I think they could have easily expanded upon the idea of Marcello coming back after his defeat at Neos and made it into ultimately Marcello joins the party, like, and you get him as a bonus character. It worked for Sorrow. I think it could have worked for Marcello. I mean, you say Marcello was unrepentant. Sorrow freaking torched, I guess this is DQ4 spoilers, but Sorrow freaking torched an entire village and killed Eliza and, like, did, you know, what else did Sorrow do? Like,
not
I
much,
guess
really.
you could say the things in Mahabala and, like, with the Marquis de Leon.
He did kidnap a bunch of kids too.
He kidnapped a bunch of kids. He took everyone from Zamoxfa, right? Like that. Everyone.
I don't remember. I think that might have been Balzac, actually.
No, Balzac was just stationed there, like, to keep an eye on the place after everyone in Zamoxfa went missing. But I don't think, because Balzac, Ted, at the time of Chapter 2, I don't think Balzac was.
Oh yeah, you're right, because they're missing. Yeah, because they're missing. Oh, I forgot that they were missing at the end of Chapter 2 as well. Sorry, that was me misremembering.
No, that's okay.
DQ4.
So like, you say Marcello is unredeemable and unrepentant. Like, I don't think he's any more of those things than Sorrow is. And Sorrow, and you and I both liked having Sorrow as a bonus character. I
think it's a difference in portrayal and a difference in the game, the way the game presents its story, I think. Whereas Dragon Quest IV, like, it's an NES game, so the story is a lot more simple, I guess. In a lot of ways, it's presented a lot more simply. Wherein, like, just bringing him back and having Rose, like, bringing back Rose and, like, saying that, no, sorry, you don't have to destroy the world, Rose is okay. It like brings him back to that point. I guess it's not as much attention is brought to Sorrow's antics to the point, like we had mentioned in a Heroes cutscene, where it's just like, no, he didn't actually do all that much. Like, again, like the way that the game's portrayed, you don't think about Sorrow too much, I guess, until like he becomes a prominent character. I don't know how much sense I'm making. Let me talk about what I do know instead. In Dragon Quest VIII, the game puts a lot of effort on presenting Marcello as a manipulative, cunning, intelligent bastard who is working towards his own ends, and he is shown to personally backstab the party on multiple occasions. Like he specifically, he has it out for Angelo. So while I do think that they could have made it work, because like I'm generally a fan of like the villain joins the party, because you know it's cool and like you get a new party member. I'm always down for that, unless they suck. Like I didn't mind it with Sorrow. You're right. I didn't mind it with like Magus and Chrono Trigger. There's other examples as well. But the difference is that like again, we missed so much development with Marcello and Angelo that they would have had to work for it.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have had to be a protracted side quest in order for it to make sense cinematically and for them to build towards it. In order for it to build towards it and make it feel believable. Like I felt like it would have needed to be at least the Juggaroth dungeon and one more. I think it would have had to be hard to get, and you would have had to be like a super duper like awesome character to make up for it. And I mean, I'm sure he would be because he's a badass, but especially the way that the game is written right now, like I think that it would have had to add a lot more content in order to make it make sense. Does that make sense? I'm not against the idea. I'm just saying that I don't think that it was necessary. And like, I feel like in order to even have a storyline where Marcello finds some sort of redemption, I don't think that he needed to join the party, and I don't think that it always makes sense for him to. Does that?
I wish ultimately I wish they'd done something that had more of a point than what the Juggaroth dungeon ended up being, which was basically all the Juggaroth dungeon basically did was, yeah, Marcello didn't go and throw himself off a cliff immediately after Angelo saved him, and he didn't go and die in Neos in the desert in Neos. He survived. What's he doing? I don't know. Like, is he gonna mend things with his brother because at least they didn't like come to blows this time? I don't know. He's there, guys. We put him in. Look at his cool clothes.
It's fan service. A lot of the added content in Dragon Quest VIII 3DS is fan service. That's really all it is. There is some good stuff, like if the Medea 8 cutscene is added, that was great.
And the Dual Magus background cutscene.
Oh, that was fantastic. Like, that was, I think, necessary, because otherwise, like, Dual Magus himself is just kind of like a random jester who's there for no reason. But, like, stuff like the endings, we'll get to the alternate endings, but those feel like the new endings feel just like fan service to me. And like the Marcello, like, oh, he's not dead, look, he's in your party, oh man, he's so mysterious and cool, guys, like, yeah, we know you love him.
Oh, you want him in your party? Too bad we didn't bother to do that.
You can actually play as him if you buy Ikedaki Street.
Yeah, Itadaki Street Special, I think, or Itadaki Street Portable. He's in there. He looks bizarre. Because he looks exactly the same, like, smug face and everything, but he's chibi.
Again, like, I'm not saying that it couldn't have worked, because I think that it could have. I don't think that the way the game is written as it is, I think that, we would have needed the story to be better written in regards to him not disappearing and Angelo talking about his feelings every once in a while.
Yeah.
And also, it would have not just been like it couldn't just be kind of like Red, where Red just decides, oh, I'm coming with you. Like, Marcello just couldn't say, oh, I need to make up for what I did, I'm joining your party. We would have had to, like, convince him that, like, Marcello, we need your help. We don't like you, but we're not going to be able to beat Rapthorn without you, or something like that.
I just wish they'd tried. Like, I just wish they, it's like, they made this remake. If they make one again, it's not going to be for a very long time. Like, no, probably not. I feel like it wouldn't. I think they should have, but they didn't.
It would have been cool too, because they probably wouldn't have revealed it. Is the thing, and like, okay, if they were going to add a 7th playable character, it would be Marcello. Yes. But if it'd be like, and he would be cool too, like to play. Like he could be like a much more offensively minded Angelo. and like maybe
Yes.
rapiers could actually be useful.
Yeah.
too.
And like I also realized like if we had 7 people total, like if it were 8 Yangus, Jessica, Angelo, Red, Mori, and Marcello, we would be 7 people, like 7 playable party members. And there was the whole thing with like the 7 sages and the 7 sages heirs. I thought that would have been a nice sort of like bookending.
7's also just a good number for party members, you know? Like,
Yeah, because then you could have a full party of the new people or the full party of the old people plus 8, because you can't take 8 out of the party.
Yeah.
But okay, so I think we've done enough talking about what could have been and what that.
You and I are going to disagree on Marcello on principle. I think a lot of points.
Because I will fully admit, like a lot of my reaction to Marcello is not a rational thing. It's just that.
Oh, that's fine. It's like stories aren't supposed to be rational a lot of the time. Like I firmly believe that emotions trump logic. Like if a story can have as much plot holes, like can have plot holes out the ass, and as long as you connect with it, then it's still an effective story. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So like I'm not judging you for that. It's just certain things about it I guess didn't resonate with me as much as they did with you. You know?
Yeah.
So we can have a respectful disagreement.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
well, this is
why
weird.
Can't you respect my taste in fine Japanese literature?
Okay, look. All right, I have a strong feeling that the only reason why Qatherine even likes Marcello is she thinks he's hot and read all the yaois about Angelo and Marcello having kinky, slightly, dubiously consensual sex. You know.
Anyways, moving on.
That's I don't want to admit this, but yes, it's true.
So, at this point, you can just go into the final dungeon.
Yeah, and again, like, the final dungeon's good, I will say. Like, it's a very good final dungeon. I like how, like, it's well designed. I like how there's a lot of different areas to explore. I like how it actually feels like a building and not just like a dungeon. Because that's something I just appreciate in games, where if a level feels like it's an actual place, and, like, one of my big pet peeves is like with Donkey Kong Country, the factory doesn't feel like a factory. It feels like saw blades and conveyor belts and things like that, you know? So I like that. I also like how there's gates everywhere so that you can take trips out and like go and heal and whatnot, because the enemies in there are pretty tough.
Yeah.
And also the ending sequence where you're going around in the town in the circle is
freaks
super
me
cool.
out so hard. And like the statues of you guys that like the four it's always the 4 original party members, right?
Yes.
Because I brought the original cast.
I did
because
too.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to see what their party chat was, since I figured it would be better written.
Like, I mean, granted, Red and Mori are entertaining characters, but I
wanted the original experience of like what they said, you know.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, they might say something funny, but they don't. Those characters have no stakes in what's going on at the moment. Yeah.
So but the statues just like crumbling as you keep going. Yeah, that was a cool sequence. Very cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And what's at the bottom of it? Firefly Rapthorn.
Oh God, Rapthorn. Talk about the least intimidating final boss in Dragon Quest history. Like, Firefly. He looks like something you'd get out of a claw machine.
He looks like a Pokemon.
Oh man, Rapthorn, go use disruptive
Signal
wave.
Beam.
Dark bug type.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, none of the cool bird theming with Dual Magus or Sir Leopold is there. Like, you know, his voice is...
This isn't even his final form, Ted.
Oh, well, we'll get to his final form later.
Oh, yeah.
And,
we beat up Rapthorn.
The fight's really easy. You know that it's not the end. Because then you get actually a really cool Metroid escape sequence, where you run out of the dungeon.
Without any sort of timer, by the way.
Yeah, but Metroid's the first thing people will think of. So
I know,
but
it's funny because like I kept of course I kept using party chat, and Andrew was like, "Is now really the best time to be having a chat? Seriously?" And I'm like,
dude, if we stand still, nothing's gonna happen. We're fine. Can't we just cast evac? No. Okay.
It doesn't work, right? I didn't even
Yeah,
try.
the game just says, but it's being magically blocked somehow, which is Dragon Quest speak for, no, you can't use it.
No, not allowed.
Yeah, so you do, there's actually a lot of cool fights. Like, there's a fight against some dancing flames and a demon at arms. The statue fight, where you fight the statues of the main
Yeah.
characters, is really cool. Um, and then you get outside, you think you're about to leave, and you fight the Ruin, which is a really
Yeah.
cool boss monster, I think. Like, it's a
Yeah.
badass design.
It's an awesome design.
And so you fight it, turns out Rapthorn's not dead, a big surprise.
He like,
He, like,
combines with the ruins, I think. I think that's what they were
something,
going for.
I guess, and then he becomes Fat Rapthorn. And
Yeah.
oh my god, I hate Fat Rapthorn's design. And
It's the worst design.
and also
He looks like some kind of evil genie thing.
like he's fat, and like throughout the entire game he's talking about, oh, my flesh and blood, I'm going to get my human body back, my flesh and blood body back. That's all he talks about is flesh and blood, bruh. And so you're thinking, okay, so is his form going to be really cool? And it's like literally just like the fat guy who doesn't want to get off of his Segway when you're shopping in Walmart or something, basically.
He's
That's
just like fat. It's not like you look at like even like the final boss of like and I'm thinking about like the final forms of like DQ4, 5, 6, and 7. Like they're all super cool looking and like scary looking.
Yeah.
Like Rapthorn looks
Phase
like
1 is silly,
lame.
and Phase 2 is lame.
Yeah.
And the
And
voice, too. The voice for Phase 1 is like this really high-pitched shrill voice, and Phase
that's
2
the voice.
is...
That's the Phase 1 voice is the one that was talking through the scepter and overlaying with Jessica's voice, and then the one that was talking to Marcello and trying to convince him to.
I could have sworn they were trying to go for Dual Magus, but I'll take your word for it. That's what I thought. That's what I thought when I first heard it, I guess. So, maybe, but like the voice is so squeaky for the first form, and like
and
obviously
it's like super like fat voice.
he's like, I talk like this, my flesh and blood. It's like, dude, you suck. Like, again, Rapthorn has to compete with Marcello, who, again, we have differing opinions on, like, how he could have, like, part of what makes Marcello so disappointing is that he's so good. Like, the performance is so good, what's there is well written, and he's so striking and memorable that, in comparison, when you get to Rapthorn, he just seems really, really lame. Like, okay... We get Rapthorn.
Can't I fight possessed Marcello instead? Like that would have been baller.
Like, honestly, what I think would have been the best ending for the game, like if I were writing it, I would have had like Marcello fighting possessed Marcello, like maybe not even possessed, like maybe just Marcello in full control, be the first form final boss, and then like when you beat him, he breaks control, and then you fight Rapthorn for Phase 2. Like, because you had to fight Rapthorn. Obviously, he's going to be the final boss, but I like the idea of Marcello being the final villain, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But even still, like, they could have done something with Rapthorn. Like, I don't know what, but they could have done more than... You've done literally the evil overlord who wants to control the world 8 times. And this isn't Sonic or Mario where the characters are played, where the villain are played for laughs or whatnot. This is like the 8th time in a row, and you don't have anyone even slightly sympathetic like Sorrow, or any character through him you have a deep personal connection with like Laja and DQ5. It's just, he's just the bad guy and you gotta kill him, and yeah, it's... Oh, but you don't even get a fight, Rapthorn, though.
No,
like, you think...
no.
Oh,
Deus Ex Machina.
This is the worst part of the game, I think, honestly, is right before the final boss.
It makes so little sense.
So what happens is, right, like, Rapthorn becomes Big Rapthorn, and he has a shield over him. And you can't fight him. So Imperia comes and swoops you off of the ruined castle, and she says, oh, we can't get to Rapthorn because he's got this shield. The power of the sages could take him down. Here, take the echoing flute. Go on a fetch quest to get the 7 orbs in order to summon the sages and break the shield. It's so stupid.
Yep. Go get orbs. Go get orbs.
Now, for people who don't know the series, this is a callback to Dragon Quest III, where the majority of Dragon Quest III, you're trying to collect these orbs in order to hatch the Ramia egg so that you can go to Baramos' castle. And they wanted to call back to that, I guess, so they have you collect these orbs using the Echoing Flute, which is what you use in Dragon Quest III. But I mean, okay, that's fine. Dragon Quest III references are fine. I love that game, but you don't put a fetch quest right when you think you're gonna be fighting the final boss.
Like in Dragon Quest V, it wasn't like you fought phase 1 of the final boss, and then he said, "All right, run around for half an hour, go visit all the towns." And then come back for phase 2. It was like, no, you just fought phase 2.
It's so stupid. Like, what does this add to the game? Okay,
we get to climb Alexandria Tower for a third time.
And they don't change anything again. It's like, once you figure out that, oh, they're where the sages died, you can get it done in 10 minutes. Yeah. Like, the hardest part is figuring out, okay, where are these? Where do I look? Once you figure out that, oh, they're where each sage was killed, then it's easy, and it just becomes tedious rather than, annoying and tedious. Yep. And, again, you don't... Imperia herself is just a walking Dragon Quest III callback anyway. Yeah. You don't need
I like to... how she brought her babes with her, too.
Yeah, that was cute, I think.
I was just like, where did these ladies come from? And you were like, no, those are from Dragon Quest III.
Yeah, I'm fine with them being there because, again, that's a callback that's cool for fans, but doesn't...
It's not intrusive.
Yeah, so if you've never played Dragon Quest III before, say our good friend Qatherine here, this orb quest is gonna make no sense. And I've played Dragon Quest III, so I know, oh, it's a Dragon Quest III callback, but I was still annoyed by it. It kills the, again, Marcello, was great, but after that, the endgame pacing is awful, I think. It's arguably, I think, the worst endgame in any Dragon Quest game, aside from, maybe Dragon Quest II, but that's for a completely different reason. That's mostly just because Dragon Quest II's endgame is, bullshit hard. But in terms of story progression, this is the worst that I've played. It's honestly, one of my least favorite endings to an RPG that I've enjoyed in a really long time. I hated it. It was awful.
Yeah, I think I wasn't quite as, I don't know, I didn't...
the game had already been getting on my nerves.
About it, but yeah, I mean, I will not disagree that, it was stupid. It was a waste of my time. The only thing that I found, moderately interesting about it was the fact that the seventh orb, the one for the Lord High Priest, was in the room where he was attacked by evil Sir Leopold. So Marcello just killed him right there.
Yeah.
There was something perfect of it. Yep, yeah. That's not...
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm more rough on it, because at that point, the game had been really pissing me off at that point, because, I thought Rapthorn was lame, I thought that there was missed opportunities with Marcello, and I wouldn't have felt that strongly if I didn't feel like the game was going to go somewhere excellent with its ending. That's why I really wanted to stress how cool the Marcello taking control of the scepter scene was. I thought that was amazing, one of the best scenes in any Dragon Quest game I've played, period. Even in any RPG I played, period. That scene was awesome. And so there was disappointment with that. There was the aggravation that we just stopped. Okay, now we have to do a side quest. I went back and I found the Juggaroth stuff after, because I went back to Neos just to see what happened after the castle fell, and then I started the Juggaroth sequence at that point. And again, I had big issues with that as well, and then the irritations kept piling on and on with that. And so by the time I got to the point where I gathered all the orbs, and then in order to start the final boss, you have to spend 10 plus turns just doing nothing but using the scepter and watching Rapthorn smack you in the face, I was so done.
Oh yeah, that was great. I love getting hit in the face for 7 turns.
What does that add? It's not really an interesting challenge.
I would also like to point out that you're exactly right. It's not interesting because at that point you probably have Omni heal for the hero and more MP than you know what to do with. So you just waste time. But yeah, the like I would also like to add that we were just calling on these like souls of the original Seven Sages. Like I don't know who any of these losers are. Like I actually think like why didn't they have us call the souls of like the heirs? Like because they're in the scepter. That's how Rapthorn was resurrected. Their souls are in the scepter. I think it would have been like, you know, maybe it's putting a bow tie on a pig, but I think it would have been nice if instead of pulling out the souls of like these people who no one in the party has met, if we pulled out like Alistair's soul and the Abbot's soul and Marta's soul and David's soul.
No, that would be cool. Like especially
if they did. It still would have been gameplay wise. It still would have been a pain, and I feel like that completely separate from that. Like I just when I was refighting the final boss, I think for the good ending or the post game ending, yeah. I was like who are these jobbers? Like they're just silhouettes, and we don't know any of them, and they're lame. It's like. I'm like, why couldn't it have been the heirs? Because I was also like, why are the souls of the people who died 2,000 years ago in the scepter? Like, aren't also the souls of the heirs in the scepter? Can we get them instead?
And I think they could have made it cool from a gameplay perspective too. Like imagine if it wasn't required to get all the orbs. Like, what if it was kind of like, if you get the orbs and then like you use them in battle, then you get like a buff. Like, for example, like, you call on Marta's soul and she casts Enceladal on the party, or you call on Alistair's soul and he does a really powerful magic attack and you can only use it once, and like it feels like there's a purpose to it in that way. Like again, like this is a really unrefined idea from my end, but you could have made this not feel like you're counting steps for 10 plus turns. Because again, like you have to have. I should mention that in order to get you have to get all sages summoned. All 7 sages summoned in order to actually start the final boss. And
because otherwise Rapthorn's invulnerable, yeah.
Yeah, but in order to summon a sage, you have to have all 4 characters use the Godbird Scepter item in their inventory. So if you can't have like 3 of them use it and 1 person heal, so you will eventually need to heal, and you can't summon a sage on that turn. It's just a wasted turn. You have everybody defend and 1 person heal. It's a waste of time. And so like by the time like I actually got to the fight, like the music kicked in, and I was just like, I know this music should be cool, but I'm so done with this that I really can't care.
Oh, because like, I love the final boss music.
It's like, a great theme. It's a great theme.
I can understand why you were like just like super like 10 minutes past well done at that point, but yeah. It's a great theme, and like I realized not that long ago like that it actually incorporates part of the melody from the Godbird flight theme, which I thought is super cool. I think the title of it is something like Battle in the Great Sky or something. The title of the Rapthorn piece. Yeah, it's a great final boss music, but yeah, I absolutely agree. Like by the time you get to it, you're just like, I've been here forever, Rapthorn.
Yeah,
you just die.
Rapthorn's not really a fun fight either.
No, because I was having I'm gonna scream about this for a while, because I was having a buttload of trouble with him. He's just critting everyone. He's just hitting everyone for massive damage, like throwing his orb. And I got really bad luck because he throws his orb and it does 2 hits. It can either hit the same person twice or it can hit 2 different people. It loved to hit the same person twice when I was playing.
And doesn't the orb not get affected by Kabuff either?
Yes! That's what I didn't know. I was struggling with that fight for like a good while, and then I was like, okay, let me look up some advice. So I pull out my iPod, I start like Googling like Rapthorn boss fight, and I read, don't bother with Kabuff. For some reason, it doesn't work against his physical attacks, even though these were physical attacks where it was not saying like it was a crit or a desperate attack or anything. It was just normal physical attacks aren't affected by Kabuff. So I have been wasting my time with Angelo and like Yangus or whoever trying to get Kabuff up to mitigate some of this damage, when really I should have just been tanking it and just trying to hit him and heal.
Yeah, like Yeah, focusing on like Ensaladal or getting damage in when you could. And also he loves to put your
Yes,
characters to
and
sleep
then when I
too.
was refighting him for the second ending, at that point in the game for a different boss, I had made 4 rings. Catholicon rings, which are supposed to you make from alchemying like Ring of Immunity, Ring of Truth, and Ring of like I don't know savingness.
It's supposed
Um,
to be your you don't get
it's
status effects
yeah,
anymore
it's
item.
supposed to block all status effects. Well, everyone in my party had a Catholicon ring equipped, and no, Rapthorn gazes into Angela's eyes, and Angela falls asleep. What? What?
He was very tired. All right, he was busy last night.
He was so busy.
Wow. Yeah, he and his right hand were having a great time.
No, left hand. He's left-handed.
Sorry,
So-
you gotta exercise the other arm, you know.
Okay, I don't want these details.
But you have looked up those details in all sorts of yaois.
Hold on, actually, now I need to check. Did he use his left hand?
Okay, never
Well,
mind.
keep talking. Keep talking. I'm gonna do research.
It's it's frustrating because again, like I don't want to again, like I had mentioned this. I think I had mentioned this earlier. Whatever. I don't hate the game. I think it's a great game. It's just, especially with the ending, it's hard when it's hard when the ending doesn't satisfy because it makes the entire experience feel like it's less good than what it already was. And I had a lot of fun playing the game. Like, and we're actually gonna talk more about because there's a lot of post game stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Like not just gameplay. Like story stuff too, but like the actual like ending sequence I like a lot, and the post game I think is actually one of the best post games in the Dragon Quest series, at least the stuff that's for the PS2 version. We'll get to it, but
Yes.
like like Rapthorn and the Black Citadel and the missed opportunities with Marcello and the Juggernaut dungeon, it all left me with like this really disappointed feeling where it's just like, I think I get why this is the most popular Dragon Quest game in the West, but it falls short to me in so many places where it's just like, I wish that I could like it as much as everybody else seems to, but I can't. I can't get over a lot of these things that bother me. And I mean, you can like the game if you want, but it's important to I think it's even more important to be critical of the things we like than the things that we don't like. Because I'm super over analytic with even like my favorite games a lot of the time. It's just a lot of the time I can decide that I can find that while I know that these things have issues, I somehow find a way to either like overcome them or be able to push them aside. And I've got a lot of games that I do that for, like Sonic Adventure 2, hugely flawed game, but I can still find the enjoyment in that. Banjo-Tooie, even like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. But with Dragon Quest VIII, while I still had fun with it, I have these issues, and this time I wasn't able to push these issues aside or like logically argue with myself over them. It's just like they bother me, and it severely hampered my enjoyment of the game, unfortunately. So, yeah. So did he use his right hand or his left hand?
Oh, left. Yeah.
Oh, good job, Yaoi artists.
They really did. They really had attention to detail. Yep. I'm really
But,
proud.
Yeah, but anyway, do you have any final thoughts on the final boss too? Because I went ranting for a while.
Yeah. I mean, the boss fight. We kind of already talked about that. I already complained about how Rapthorn made Angela fall asleep.
Okay.
Angela was really bored by the end of the game too.
Yeah.
He just fell asleep. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, this game felt gameplay wise, it's solid. It's really the story that's the mixed bag, because when this game is strong, it's very strong. When the characters are great, they are incredibly memorable. Like, Yangus is the best bro I've ever had.
I love Yangus. He's so great.
I gave him my Argon ring. He won't marry me.
Okay. So let's talk about the ending, the original ending, which I honestly, out of the 4 endings in the 3DS version, the standard default ending is easily my favorite. Because that's the ending where, like, Princess Medea is set to marry Prince Charmles. You bust in, you say, no, this wedding isn't happening. King Clavius is like, no, this wedding shouldn't happen. Charmles, you're like a dickwad. And, like, he says, I know that you faked that Argon heart. And and the really sweet scene of you running out with Medea together, like, holding hands, running through the fields.
Yeah, she's
and
like,
then,
take my hand, and we'll go away together. And you take her hand, and you run away, and it's super cute. And I love the part where you're like, your buddies all like help keep the guards off your back while you leave.
Yeah, and also, like, I love them riding in the carriage together with Trode as the, like, Trode riding, like, with Trode at the horses. And I really love the scene when they go back to Trodaine, and King Trode's like, you kind of screwed everything up there, like, like...
I don't know how we're gonna get you married now, but,
but then Medea says, like, Dad, don't worry about it, like, look, we're home. And, like, all the townspeople come out. And I thought that was really sweet because, like, it didn't need to be about, like, marriage or anything like that. They could just be happy that the ordeal is over and everybody's together again. And honestly, like, the implication is that Medea and the hero are going to get married anyway.
Oh, yeah. I feel like Trodaine would be like, yeah, whatever, fine. Trode would be like, yeah.
And then, like, I find it so much more romantic than even the ending where you actually do marry her,
Yeah.
Like, it's like the implied, like, the romantic connotations of, like, running away with her literally and, like, taking her hand and whatnot are just, to me, so much more heartwarming and romantic than, like, you walking out of the church without even seeing the ceremony,
Oh, that would have
like,
been boring.
Yeah. Like, I don't think, like, you've already done the ceremony great in Dragon Quest V. I don't think you can just do it again,
Yeah, I really like, so, like, one theme that we didn't really discuss because I think it really comes up most with the ending is the other theme in this the other big theme in this game, aside from the whole, like, power corrupting thing, is that people should be able to choose how they want to live their life and who they want to live their life with. Like, Angelo wants to live his life, like, Angelo's still, I feel like at the end of the game, Angelo's still trying to figure out what the crap he wants to do with his life.
Because I'm gonna run an orphanage.
Oh my gosh, can we talk about how that was, like, such a butt pull? Like,
it's lame.
He
it's
never
super
interacts
lame.
with a single child in the game. Like, tell me one child that Angelo interacts with, because I can't think of a single one. Like, other than Charmles, I guess, but he clearly hates Charmles. And Jessica actually does, like, one thing I thought was kind of cute and in character was when Charmles is in the party, Jessica does, like, try to talk to him, which makes sense because Jessica's friendly with, two small boys back in her hometown. Like, okay, so she'd try to kind of big sister Charmles. That doesn't go well. But, like, Angelo never interacts with children. Like,
no, I guess
he runs an orphanage now?
I think the implication is he's going to try to be like the abbot who helped him. But again, like, we know so little about what Angelo's...
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what Angelo wants, or even if he wants anything, really.
No,
like,
I feel like he doesn't know either, because when Trode is like, after you fight Rapthorn, Trode's like, oh, my men, you all did wonderfully. And everyone except for the hero is like, I'm not your man, Trode. And what Angelo says is, and I'm a free agent.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you are a free agent. You don't know what the crap you're doing. Like,
yeah.
And then, like, okay, the whole thing about the orphanage, that comes right after you see Angelo, like, getting all, like, cozy with 2 women. Like,
yeah.
Have you changed or not, Angelo? Because I can't tell.
Like, I mean, I can still see him hitting on ladies, and, like, fine, you can keep that part of his character, although, again, it's not really brought up very much. And it doesn't even seem like he's a very effective womanizer anyway, but, like, sure, you can keep, like, that he's a lady killer, but, like, you can imply that, like, maybe, and, like, you can still be a caring person and, like a playboy, but you need to make it feel more convincing than that,
Yeah.
I don't feel like that was handled
like,
very well at all.
I'm running an orphanage, but I'm
like,
still a lady killer. Okay.
Everybody gets the ending you would expect, like Red and Yangus are together.
As
Jessica,
business partners.
yep. Like Maury's running the pit. Jessica's like got back together with her mom, and
Oh,
they're not
Jessica and
fighting
her mom are
anymore.
totally cool now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. But, you know, like, I don't know. Like, really, the ending is about Medea and the hero.
Yeah.
Really.
And like the
And
whole idea that, like, going back to what I said about like the theming, that like, you know, Medea should have the right to choose who she wants to marry if she wants to marry. You know, that really does. I agree. Like, there's something so sweet about the two of them just running off together, and just like kind of saying like screw it to everything else. Like, we're gonna do what makes us happy. Yeah, I agree. There's something super sweet about that.
but, yeah,
But
but let's talk
that's
about.
not the real ending, I
Well,
guess.
well, let's talk about post game. I actually
Yeah.
really do like I should specify the PS2 post game in this game. So after you beat the game, the credits roll. They show this scene of this altar, which you could find in the normal game, but it didn't do anything.
I ran
And-
into it, but yeah, partly because it was a photo quest to take a picture of it. But yeah, it does nothing in the normal game.
And then you go, like, the eyes light up or something, or like,
Yep.
or whatever. And then you go there, and you're like teleported to this dungeon, and then you find the city of the Dragovians, the
Yep.
people who can turn into dragons, and like their leader is stuck in dragon form, and you suddenly meet this guy named Chen Wei, and like he acts like he knows the party for some reason, and then
Yeah.
like basically like they want you to calm the elder down so that they can like not die, basically,
Yeah, because
because I think
he's basically he's draining power from the Lord of the Dragovians after certain events that no one really seems to want to talk about. Um, the Lord of the Dragovians decided humans suck. I want to be in my dragon form like always. But it takes a lot of energy to do that, so he's getting this energy by draining the life force of the other Dragovians. So the whole Dragovian sanctuary is in complete disarray, and the party is asked, like, please go and whack the Lord of the Dragovians on the head a few times to bring him to his senses. So you do that.
and then after you do that, you get a whole lot of, honestly, it kind of feels like an exposition dump a little bit. You find out about these Dragovians and how there was a Dragovian woman who fell in love with a human man who turned out to be the heir to Argonia, like the Argonian prince. Because
King Clavius's older brother Eltrio.
Yeah, you actually do learn about this if you talk to people in Argonia, where King Clavius had an older brother and he disappeared. So like Clavius wouldn't have been the king had he stuck around. But the Argonian prince fell in love with a Dragovian woman, but the Dragovians weren't having any of that, so they kicked Eltrio out, and Eltrio, trying to get back to the woman, died on the path. But the woman was already pregnant at that point, so they gave birth to a half Dragovian, half human child, and they didn't know what to do with it.
And because the mother, Shia, died after childbirth.
Because, yeah, we can't have nice things happening in this game. So they decide, what do we do with this babby?
And it took them like 10 years to decide what to do with the babby.
Yeah, so they curse him and then like throw him off the cliff.
They curse him to suppress all his memories of living in the Dragovian sanctuary. And then they're like, alright, we're just going to throw him down to live with the humans. And the boy's grandfather... the Dragovian grandfather, who is Chenmui, was like at that point had become quite attached to his grandchild and was like,
he regretted how he had acted with his daughter too, because he had strongly opposed Eltrio and the woman's marriage. I forget her name, unfortunately. Shia, yeah, he had strongly opposed their marriage, but once he raised the grandson and he grew very attached to him, so he decided that he had to be allowed. He wanted to be allowed to accompany him, but he couldn't do it in a human in a normal form. So he had to become a mouse, and that's Munchie.
Munchie Chenmui didn't realize this, by the way.
No, I didn't. I didn't get it. Like, he has the same mohawk that Munchie does too, and I noticed him eating all the cheese. I definitely noticed that, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, that's weird. And I was thinking, at that point, I was thinking, is Munchie like from the Dragovian sanctuary? Because like he does run off whenever you
Yeah.
go there. But
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together that Chen Mui was
You
Munchie.
didn't? I figured it out immediately.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. Well, let's just say that that's like my comeuppance for you not noticing the chest stuff.
Touche,
So,
touche. So yeah, and one fun fact for those who have played the game and might not have noticed this tidbit. There's a man who lives in a tiny little house on top of the waterfall cave where you fight the first boss. And if you go to him at various points in the game, he gives you a bunch of cheese and mentions how like everyone back in his hometown, like his family, they love cheese and he gets so much, like they feed him so much cheese when he goes to visit. If you go talk to him after the events in the Dragovian Sanctuary, um, Chen Mui talks to him in, like, Munchie turns into Chen Mui and talks to him, and the man then, like, tells you, yeah, I'm a Dragovian, by the way. I was sent here to, he kind of keeps an eye on the humans and, like, reports to the Dragovians. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really cute little tidbit, because he sees Munchie when you first meet him, and he knows what Munchie is, but he doesn't tell you, and he gives you cheese to feed Munchie.
yeah, that's the tutorial basically. Like, it's a completely missable and small side quest. It's supposed to be your tutorial that you can feed Munchie cheese and he'll do breath attacks.
Yeah.
Now, I really like the stuff with the Breath of the Dragovians, and after you beat the Elder, you can do the Dragovian Trial, which is basically fighting the super boss over and over again to get new stuff.
With
And
different
part of
tricks
what-
up his sleeve every time, too, I'd like
Yeah.
to point out.
And that's what I think makes it really cool, because it's kind of repetitive in other Dragon Quest games where you just fight the super boss over and over using the same strategies every time.
Yeah.
So, like, actually using new strategies to have to beat him, I think is really, really cool. My biggest issue with it, though, because, like, I do like it overall, again, it feels like a plot dump, and it also feels like this Lord of the Dragovian stuff should be more important in the course of the main plot than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like, it's not mentioned at any point before this. Like, they kind of hint at it, but none of it's, like, again, like, it's all post-game. None of it's necessary to know in order to get the whole story, and it feels like it should have been much more important. Like, they should have had the hero's backstory be part of the main quest.
I think the only mention of the word Dragovian at all that I can remember is there's a book in Rapthorn's Citadel that mentions how strong Dragovians are, and that like only a Dragovian could possibly stand up to Rapthorn, the Lord of Darkness. Like, that is the only thing I can remember in which the word Dragovian was mentioned in the main game. And yeah, like, I agree, like, there were so many things, like, because there's a lot of things that are explained by the post-game content, namely the fact that the hero wasn't affected by Dulmagus' curse. It's explained that the curse that was placed on the hero to repress his memories of living in the Dragovian sanctuary functioned as a protection against all other curses, because, like, you can't be cursed twice. So that's why he survived the Dulmagus' attack, and that's why he's immune to curses in battle. So that was cool to have that resolved, and I liked the whole thing with, like, Eltrio and Shia. That was, like, I thought that was a really sweet story, even if it was kind of like a plot dump when it happened.
Yeah.
I liked the way it was told with, like, Chen Mui's little storybook.
Oh yeah, it's sweet, and it definitely ties in with other themes in the game. It's just, I don't know, I would have loved it if it were told a little bit more organically, I guess.
Yeah.
But beating the Lord of the Dragovians gives you the Argon ring that
Chen Mui gives it to you, because this is the Chen Mui gives you the Argon ring that Prince Eltrio, being, of the Argonian royal family, gave to Shia as a wedding, or to be a wedding ring. So now the hero is in possession of an Argon heart ring.
It's also a badass accessory too, because it's like the best attacking boost accessory in the game as well.
Yeah.
Better than a Titan belt as well. So this is your key to getting the other endings in the game. So
The
what you
marriage
can do,
endings, yeah.
so if you have it in your inventory when you beat Rapthorn again, what happens is normally there's just a cutscene where Angela's like, "Oh, this is so unfair. That Charmels is such a douchebag."
Are you really going to let the princess marry him? Like, don't you think you should care about her happiness? And 8 has this like sad look on his face, like, I don't know.
Yeah, but if you have the ring in your inventory, Angelo will tell you, "Wait, you've got the ring." That maybe you can show it to King Clavius and like
He'll rethink this marriage thing.
yeah. So you can still get the normal ending again if you want. And I actually did that by accident because I didn't the game sends you to the Lord High Priest's manor where all the royalty is staying for the wedding, and I couldn't find King Clavius because he's on the balcony. I didn't think that the balcony doors opened. I thought it was just a wall. So I'm thinking, is he outside? And then I opened the door, and the game just assumes you go back to your room. So I had to beat Ratthorn again. That was fun. But you go and you open the door and you talk to King Clavius and you show him the ring and you're like, "Yeah, I want to marry Medea. She's hot."
Va-va-voom.
Yeah, va-va-voom. But he's like, "No, I can't. Like, that would throw my country into turmoil if this came out.
If there were like a new heir that came out of nowhere, like that would be ridiculous. Like, I can't let you do that, Star Fox." So
he does seem reasonable about it, though. Is also the thing too, which I appreciate as well. Like he feels really sad, like he's like shocked and saddened that like he gets proof that his brother is dead, and he's sad about that, and like you can understand that it's a you can understand that it's a confusing whirlwind of emotions for him as well too. Which I think King Clavius is one of the better written NPCs personally. So you wake up, and the next part of breaking into the cathedral is basically the same in every ending, as far as I remember. But then you break in, and in the marriage ending, the Medea marriage ending, basically Clavius just says, "Nope, the Medea, this is my brother."
I changed my mind overnight.
Yeah, and one of I have a lot of issues with the Medea marriage ending. One of which is that Charmels doesn't get yelled at, and the ending needs Charmels getting yelled at.
Yeah, Charmels deserves it hard.
He deserves it hard, and I also think that the game is missing something when he doesn't get reprimanded for what he did. Charmels was a phony, and in some ways that makes him similar to Marcello. Obviously not as dignified, but he thinks that he can do whatever he wants. Basically, the only difference is that Marcello thinks he can do whatever he wants because he earned it, and Charmels thinks he can do whatever he wants because he's the prince. And he needs, in order for the game to feel complete, he needs to learn that no, you don't always get what you want if you don't earn it. Basically, does that make sense?
I think Marcello. I kind of get what you're saying. I feel like Marcello and Charmels are the ends of the extreme ends of the spectrum, because Charmels
that's a better way to put it.
Everything Marcello hates.
Yes. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities of his own. The only reason why he's living a happy and comfortable life is because his father protects him. And
and he's the prince.
Yeah, so in order for the game to stick true to its themes, where I think that he does need to get his comeuppance. So the fact that he doesn't bothered me. And also, you just you don't see any of the ceremony. Medea walks in, and then they cut outside, they open the door, you're married, and it just kind of ends. It felt very unsatisfying.
You go back to Tradaine, that part's very similar to the normal ending, that you go back to Tradaine and Trode's like, "Well, that was fun." And Medea's like, "Yay, we're home. I get to play my piano."
It's again I get that that I ship it. I like Medea and the hero together. It's just that it doesn't feel as satisfying to see them get together that way. I feel like the running away together literally is far more romantic to me, and just to think, yeah, they're going to get married someday. That, to me, is far more satisfying than seeing, oh, they got married and then the game ended. like it just felt so sudden. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right, but I would rather get the normal ending.
It's good to see both. I feel
it's
like
good to see
it's worth
both.
it to see both because if you already went through the point of beating the Lord of the Dragovians to get the Argon Ring, and like especially if you go through the Dragovian Path and the Heavenly Dais, which are pretty tough dungeons.
Yeah, they are.
You're gonna probably be at a level where beating Rapthorn again won't be much of a problem, and you'll know his tricks by then. So
yeah, by the time I was done with all of the post-game content, both 3DS and PS2, I one-shotted Rapthorn. Like I took him down with one hit, maybe two. It was
how
pathetic.
could this be?
Yeah, my flesh and blood, blah, 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 blah. I suck, I'm a lame boss. But anyway...
See, ragazzo, did you see that? That was magnifico, was it not? Because you one-shotted him with Mori, right?
I believe it was Mori, yeah. Hold on, I need to check what Rapthorn's health is, just to make sure that I'm not...
you can be coming to my monstrous pit if you would like to be training. Although I'm not much liking of your passion.
In the gusto.
You need more gusto.
Yeah, his final form on the his final form only has like 5,000 health. I easily could have one shot at that.
Didn't they bump it up on the 3DS version because screw you?
Let me look it up.
I'm pretty sure
it might have if it's less than 9,000 though, I still could have one-shotted him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you could have, but they made Rapthorn harder for the 3DS version, because they made his attacks hit harder and they gave him more health. And they in the first stage where you're using the staff, sometimes he'll waste a turn laughing. Which always sounds like so stupid that the boss is just like ha ha ha. But once you actually start fighting him, he won't waste a turn laughing anymore. And apparently in the PS2 version, he would waste turns laughing.
Okay, so in the 3DS version, his health is 6,500. So
Yeah.
again, I still did one shot that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't making a claim that I couldn't back up. But yeah. I definitely did. It's been a while since I
Pixar,
since I
didn't
finished.
happen.
Oh no, I didn't take a pick. Well, I mean, I guess I could just beat the boss again. It wouldn't be that hard, but anyway, but that's not where the game ends if you're playing on the 3DS, because the 3DS has some exclusive content. Bonus content, I should say. On top of the Juggernaut dungeon, there's one more extra dungeon added to the game. You unlock it by beating the Lord of the Dragovians in one of the extra fights, and you can unlock a special training ground. This is Memories Lane. It is bullshit. I hate it. It sucks.
Ted
what
beat
it
it. I'm like, I think I've beaten like 5 of them? Not 6.
So you're like
No, it's 4. I've beaten, wait. Yeah, the last one I beat was Don Mole. He was number 4. So I'm a third of the way through.
You went through one of the turns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
So I've beaten 4 out of, 14, or is it 12? I can't remember.
12, and somewhere between 12 and 16. But basically
Anyways.
what it is, it's a rematch gauntlet. Where you fight all of the old bosses, and they have variants on their attack patterns, and they're much harder. So at first I thought, hey, this is kind of cool. But here's the thing. The bosses get very, very hard, and very, very unfair. I'm not usually one to complain about challenge too much if a game's, unless if the challenge feels unfair. And you want to know what's unfair? Bosses that have a 2/3 chance of critting you every time they physical attack, bosses that spam status effects that you can't avoid, bosses that have insane amount of HP, and bosses that require you to grind at least 20 levels just to stand a shot. All of that is in Memories Lane, and more. And it is awful. It is... Yeah. I grinded up to level 99 to beat the final boss in Memories Lane.
I don't blame you, because it's I'm currently stuck on the Argon Lizard. I did try Mori, by the way. I still couldn't beat him.
You did notice how much damage he was doing, though,
yeah,
right?
Mori does good damage. I'll give you that. That Mori does very good damage. And you're right, because here's the thing, so I'm currently stuck on Argon Lizard, so I can talk about that one specifically and why that one I think is, and that, from what Ted tells me, is just the start of the cheapness, because Argon Lizard attacks 3 times in 1 turn. He has I think it's got to be at least a 1/3 or 50% chance of getting a critical hit, which ignores your defense. So Kabuff won't do much. Like, Kabuff will do nothing in
Kabuff's
that
a waste of
case.
time in the entire dungeon,
Well,
I say.
but he also can do a tail swipe that hits everyone in the party for pretty good damage. But yeah, his crits can one hit KO basically anyone in my party.
They do
I
like
guess
500 damage, right? Like in the
Yeah.
500s?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
the only way to survive is to grind up to get over 600 health, which is like, what, level 60 maybe?
it's past
And
level 60 because I'm everyone in my party is like, I think everyone's at least level 65. Yangus is close to 70 or is 70.
yeah, Yangus
yeah,
has the
and
fastest experience growth in the game.
Yeah, for some reason.
Jessica has the slowest. Like,
Yeah.
when I got Yangus to level 99, Jessica was at like level 90. It's strange.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like, okay, yeah, you're just gonna spam, and then, oh yeah, and the other trick that the Argon Lizard has is that he can roar and make characters lose a turn, and then also you lose all your tension when you fall on your butt because you got roared at. So
And you need tension to do any amount of damage that's worth a damn. Again, too. Like, you can swipe your sword and do, like, maybe, 300, 400 damage by those levels, but
Yeah.
these bosses have thousands of HP. So the only way you're going to get the boss... And you have to kill the bosses relatively quickly, because you can't survive long enough without it. So it felt like every boss I used the same strategy. It was Omni heal with the hero, have like tension and buffs with Jessica and Red, use Mori to get enough tension, and then just hope that Hand of God hits, and he doesn't like get cursed or puffed or roared at or whatever. And it felt like such a crapshoot.
you? Who puffs you?
Evil Jessica.
Yo! I hope the veins aren't down there too.
Somebody's into it.
Oh my gosh, I want to see that now.
How much? Okay, so I can't believe I'm asking this. How much Evil Jessica hentai is there?
I haven't seen too much actually. People just like normal Jessica.
Huh? Okay, I'm surprised.
At least where I've been. Like as far as doujinshi, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, Memories Lane. It's very cheap. It's cheap to the point that I'm like, I don't have, like, I agree what Ted's saying, like, you know, and I'm not as far as Ted. I'm not at the worst of it from what I've heard. Like, but it feels like, what's your there's no strategy. You know, your strategy is the same for every boss, except like, okay, maybe you equip different accessories to try to mitigate, like, you know, in the case of like, okay, you want to have the accessories that reduce status effects, their chance of status effects, because like, you know, this guy is going to try to fuddle you. But it's like, other than that, it's like, yeah, you're gonna get critted. My highlight of my recent attempt at killing the Argon Lizard was he critted he critted 2 or 3 characters. So I had like 2, I think most of the people in my party were dead, and I had the bright idea, oh, I'm gonna switch in Yangus and use Kerplunk so I can bring everyone back. Genius. So, but Yangus's problem, and the reason that like I don't normally use him, I haven't been normally using him for the post-game content, is he's slow. And he'd been out of the party, so he hadn't been accelerated. So I bring Yangus in, I have him use Kerplunk. Argon Lizard roars at him, so Yangus loses his turn. Argon Lizard hits him, and he was down to like a sliver of health. And I think at this point, I don't even know. I think the only other person I had alive was Mori, who doesn't know he knows Kazing, but not any healing magic. So I was like, well, yeah, Yangus, and then I tried to Kerplunk again, and nope, Yangus died first.
Yeah. It's
like, well, and if it hadn't been for, like, Yangus tanked it. If it hadn't been for the fact that Yangus lost his turn, Kerplunk would have worked, because Yangus was able to tank the hits. Now, if I gotten critted...
Because his HP is great, too.
Yeah, Yangus is your tank character.
It's just that since everybody's going to die in one hit almost every time anyway, and he's so slow, I had to drop him because I needed faster characters. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not great.
No, it's irritating. But here's the thing, the only boss that I thought was actually fun to fight was the last one. And that is the series legacy boss, Estark, who is awesome.
So
Back from Dragon
sleepy.
Quest, you wake him up from his nap, and he's very annoyed that you woke him up from his nap, and he attacks you.
Yeah, he's
You
like,
beat
well,
him up.
he asks you like, "Are you here to challenge me?" And you can say yes or no. And if you say no, he's like, "Are you here to try to get me to fight for you?" And you can say yes or no. And if you say no, he's like, "You are wasted. You woke me up and are wasting my time. I'm gonna beat you up."
Yeah, and so when you win, he yells at you, calls you lame for not killing him in too many turns, and then you leave, and that's it.
If you refight him, he does have different. I think it's if you beat him in under 5 turns. Someone posted this on GameFAQs GameFAQs
5
board.
turns? Damn.
Yeah, if you beat him in under 5 turns, you get dialogue where Stark says something along the lines of, "You are this strong without using the secret of evolution, and yet you have not been completely corrupted by your power. I guess humans are like stronger than I thought they were." Or humans
That's
are
cool.
like, yeah. So but yeah, like I'm gonna do that.
No. Like, you have to probably, like, max skill points in a stupid specific way and use a RNG-dependent
And
cycle.
get super lucky and like just tension
It
the hell out of
probably
Jessica and
use
use magic burst.
And I honestly, like, I know that Magic Burst might be useful for, like, speedrun type stuff, but I hate using it in normal play because Jessica is not made for attacking. She's made to keep your party buffed and occasionally, like, backup healing. That's her. Anytime, like, in order to stay alive, like, any turn she's not casting, like, Insolotl or Magic Barrier, she's better off using, to me, the Temporal of Tension than like trying to cast like Kafrizzle or something. So but yeah, so like I know that like and also like you're also wasting all of those points up until you get Magic Burst on Fisticuffs for Jessica, and like when is Jessica ever gonna punch something? You know?
Angelo. When Angelo really pisses her off. Speaking of Jessica.
Oh god. I only just watched this before this oh god, I said only just watched this. This was like 4 hours ago. Damn, is this longer than part 1? It is already. Shit. Oh god.
We'll have to make Jessica. We'll have to make talk of Jessica quick. Just
yeah,
like
because it's
Angelo
late.
would be if he actually got into bed with her.
You can marry Jessica in the 3DS version.
Yep. So yeah, you can. There's 2 endings, and I actually don't understand how you trigger one of them. There's the traveling with Jessica ending, which occurs, I think, after you escape. I don't know. Like again, I don't know how you trigger it, but you escape with Medea in the carriage, and then she basically says like, "Thank you for like you've done so much for me, but I want to become a stronger person, and I rely on you. I feel like I rely on you too much, so I hereby dismiss you from your duties as captain of the Royal Guard. I know there's someone else you'd rather be with." And she's like practically in tears as she's saying this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you
do this to Medea? She is such a pure soul. Oh my god.
And
You're terrible people if you want to bang the hot redhead. Okay?
And then you get like 8 and Jessica are like traveling together. Okay, so that's the Jessica traveling ending, and then there's the Jessica marriage ending, in which when you talk to Clavius, he asks you like, do you have feelings for the princess? And you say no, and then well, no, and then he's like, is there someone else you have feelings for? And you're like, yeah, and he's like, someone you'd want to marry? And you're like, yeah. And he's like, what the crap?
He gets so, like, I loved that rant at him, because he's like, dude, you are going to mess up. Like, why are you here? If you want to marry someone else, then stop messing with international affairs. Do you understand? Like, it's just this massive rant, and, like, I love it, because, like, 8, you're being a moron right now.
Yeah. And then, actually, one thing that I thought was, like, there are 2 things I think the Jessica marriage ending did to improve on the Medea marriage ending. The first thing is that after 8 talks to Clavius, and ultimately in both endings he is told that the marriage with Medea and Charmels will go on, and that Clavius will not recognize 8's claim as a prince because it would cause too much upheaval in the country. So what is added for the Jessica marriage ending is that when 8 leaves the pavilion where Clavius is, Trode is there, and Trode says to 8, like, you know, like, what the crap, man? You're, like, screwing everything up. I'm gonna go, like, apologize on your behalf to Clavius. And Trode goes and talks to Clavius. The next day, like, at the wedding, things are basically the same, but then when you crash the wedding, Clavius says, like, basically, I changed my mind. I talked to Trode about things last night, and we decided that Charmels will not be married to Medea. And Charmels is like, what? And Clavius
he gets told
calls him
off,
out.
thankfully.
Yeah. So this is the, like, I agree with Ted. I much prefer, like, vastly prefer the pairing of 8 and Medea over 8 and Jessica. But I did like 2 things that the Jessica marriage ending added. One, the fact that Trode actually talked to Clavius about the things, because Trode knows about 8 being the son of Eltrio, and it makes sense that Trode and Clavius would discuss what was going to happen before, like as opposed to Clavius just one-sidedly changing his mind about everything overnight. So that I thought was an improvement, just story-wise. And the second thing was the fact that Charmels got called out in the Jessica marriage ending, whereas he kind of went off, like, I mean, you assume he got called out eventually, but we didn't get to see it in the Medea marriage ending.
I do
that's
agree.
Where my compliments. That's where my compliments for the Jessica marriage ending basically end. Other than the fact that I thought it was really funny that when Jessica shows up in Medea's wedding dress, she comments on how it was a squeeze to get into the dress.
Yeah,
that
was
yes,
a good...
they have a different model for Jessica in the dress in one particular area.
Yeah, it's okay. So here's the thing. I agree with you in that it does have those 2 elements that were missing from the Medea marriage ending, but the element that's missing the most in the Jessica ending is Jessica, because it's still all about Medea and Medea's marriage and marrying Charmels and all this other stuff. And, like, Jessica, like, again, like, why, if you want to marry Jessica, like, I know that you still care enough about Medea that you don't want her married to Charmels, but, like, it just, again, like, it feels totally rational that Clavius would just eat you out over, like, you trying to butt your nose into where you really do not have any claim to belong at this point. So you're just like, I'm a prince, yes, and what does that have to do with anything at the moment? Nothing, really, I'm a prince. and, like, again, like, we had discussed that Jessica is not, to us, not nearly as well of a developed character as Medea, how especially her relationship to the hero is not nearly as well developed as Medea's relationship to the hero. Because you have to remember that if you go back to, even if you don't go back to the spring a lot, and we did because we liked a lot of that dialogue, every time you go to the inn, you're almost always getting new dialogue from Medea and all of these. You learn a lot about them. You get attached to that relationship. And, like, you don't get any of that with Jessica. Like, she thinks you're kind of like her brother, I guess, like, one time. And again, that's creepy in its own way. But, like...
I think she actually says in the marriage ending, she says, like, it was after you saved me from Rapthorn's possession that I realized I'd come to love you. And I'm like, so was that when you saw me as your brother, Jessica?
Yeah, it's so ham-fisted, and it's such an obvious fan service ploy. Like, people love Jessica because she's hot, and honestly,
she's hot
that's...
and she's feisty. Like, even though we don't see... And even though I agree, there's not enough feisty Jessica in the rest of the game, in her first appearance, she's a hothead. She's feisty.
Yes.
She mouths off at her mother. A lot of that goes away real fast, but that's how she made a good first impression, and that's what people remember.
Yeah, but it's just like, that's like maybe a half an hour of Jessica in an 80-hour game, though, is the thing. And I didn't remember that when I was playing the game. I remembered, okay, Jessica, do you have anything interesting to say? Nope. Okay, time to talk to Yangus now. And, like, that's it. And, like, again, like, Jessica, like, you marrying Jessica feels so tonally out of place with everything else. Like, again, like, Medea, not only is it the relationship that's built up, but all of this stuff about, like, choice and whether or not you have to live up to your duty and whatnot, none of that applies to Jessica at all. She's just there. And I guess, like, maybe you can talk about the hero and his duty, but the hero's a silent protagonist. You can only... The only meaning that's there is the meaning that you put onto him, so... like...
The meaning that people put onto the hero, then, was that he really wanted a Puff Puff.
Oh, but you can get the Puff Puff at the Puff Puff parlor!
Aw, yeah.
Yeah, but I hated it. Like, I watched the Jessica ending on YouTube. I absolutely despised it. It was like, I'm so glad I didn't bother.
I also like, in the case of the Jessica ending, that they felt the need in the marriage ending to have like 3 minutes of Jessica monologuing at the hero about how she'd come to love him, because none of this was in the game.
No.
Because she hid her feelings. She didn't want to intrude because she thought he loved Medea.
Yeah, and
I'm like, there's been other times where that was done better.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of characters like Cordelia in Fire Emblem Awakening, where it's
or
like,
even like Lana in Hyrule Warriors gives off that impression with like what a 1/100th of the dialogue.
Yeah.
So it was written badly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I would say don't bother with the Jessica ending. If
Unless
you really
really just want to listen to Jessica's voice actress call you hubby. Which
she
I
calls
don't. You didn't watch that far?
No, like once she started, like halfway through her monologue, I just skimmed through and read the text boxes.
And no, at the very end, like you first of all you go back to the freaking Tower of Alexandria again. If I were 8, I would just be like, nope, I'm not going in again, because she wants to like pray to the goddess of to the Alexandra statue and like get her protection, and probably be like, 8, this is where my brother died, Let's have sex right now.
I'm getting real hot, and not Angelo. That's 8. A terrible pairing too, for the record.
Oh, it's garbage.
Angelo, it's garbage. Yeah,
it's absolute garbage, and like it's so fun reading like discussions where people argue about like whether Angelo and Jessica versus Jessica and the hero, and I'm like, guys, you all are missing out on the true OTP that is 8 and Yangus.
Yeah, he called me Gov when no one else would.
Oh my gosh. I love there's the dialogue where when you visit Emma's grandparents, Yangus is like, I'd like to have a place like that myself. Of course I'd want you there too, Gov. Maybe behind the stove.
And Yangus is so depressed when the hero's working as a guard in the castle, and like he seems to be happy with Red and whatnot. Like I'm sure they have all sorts of kinky sex, but
he's like, and Red's like, you won't believe this guy. Do you think that Gov's forgotten about me? And he's like, all right, Red, you don't need to make me sound so bleeding soft.
Yeah, like in bed, he's probably like, oh, Gov, what? I mean, Red.
Red?
Yeah.
I said Red. Which would actually be really weird in Japanese, because in Japanese, Yangus calls the Gov Big Brother, Onisan. I think it's Onisan, but yeah, he calls him Big Bro, basically.
It's kind of, it's got to be really weird, because my impression of the words Onisan in Japanese is like the stereotypical younger sister character. Onisan! So now I'm kind of imagining like a super duper anime. I know that Akira Toriyama's anime, but like a more stock anime Yangus with like big eyes being like, Onisan!
Which is why Jessica comments that it's weird that Yangus calls him the Gov. She says that in English, which like doesn't make quite as much sense, but it makes a lot more sense in Japanese, where it's like, yeah, like why would Yangus, who is like almost twice the hero's age, call him Big Brother? But anyways, yeah. So Yangus hero OTP. He called me Gov when no one else would.
Mori X Passion and Gusto is OT3.
No, Mori's got his little harem going with Murray, and Miri. I don't know.
Yeah, they're all bunny ladies, and they all look the same except for their costumes.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's very heavily also Mori is Mori confirmed bisexual if you go for boomerangs, 100 skill points.
Yeah, he
Swing
swings both
ways.
And you know what? I buy it, honestly. Like,
Hey
I buy it.
ragazzo.
Hey ragazzo.
Actually, he has nicknames for everyone. Apparently, if you go into them, I always went into the monster arena with 8, and he calls 8 ragazzo. But if you go in there with Jessica, he calls her bimba. If you go in with Yangus, he calls him signor. And if you go in with Angelo, he calls him Casanova.
What does he call Red?
I think it's like Lady Rosa.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
And then Trode is Don Toad.
Man, Mori is a great character. Like, I know that the party needed him.
He's freaking Hercule.
No, he's way cooler than Hercule.
No, but character design-wise, he's Mr. Satan / Hercule.
He's a not fat Mr. Satan. Like, Mori's really skinny, is the thing.
Is Mr. Satan fat? I've just seen his face.
Well, no, he's not. It's the same face. No, I should be fair. He's not fat. He's like reasonably buff. The joke with Mr. Satan in Dragon Ball Z is that he's like a sort of tough human, but at the point in the series where these people are, the strongest human in the party is like Krillin, and Krillin could like lift an 18-wheeler up with one hand. So like that the joke is that like Mr. Satan like pretends he's the strongest fighter in the world when really he's like no stronger than any other man, pretty much. So like he's like I said he was fat. That's not really true. He's got like a well-toned body basically. He's not like Twigs like Mori is though. But it is the same face. You are right. But you know I think the party needed him. The party needed an exclusive comic relief character because things are pretty dour most of the time otherwise. But yeah, I guess
we got Brother Complex number 1, Brother Complex number 2. Angelo was nice. I mean, not Angelo, Yangus. Yangus was like, I feel like in the original game, Yangus was kind of the more comic relief character, but yeah, they let Mori ham it up a lot more. So
yeah, but I guess we finally got to the end after nearly 7 hours of discussing goddamn Dragon Quest VIII.
So how about that Torneko and Ragnar cameo in the Monster Arena?
So good, so good. Oh man,
live from Lakanaba.
Oh man, I love Dragon Quest IV so much, but yeah, like okay, this is Dragon Quest VIII. The best way I can put it is this is the Final Fantasy VII of Dragon Quest. I'm not trying to say that to knock Final Fantasy VII. I love that game, but this is very clearly the Dragon Quest game where if you've played Dragon Quest and you're not like one of those people who got the game for free back in the 80s, this is the one that you've probably played. This is probably where most people's experience with Dragon Quest starts and ends. And at this point,
I feel like it's not a bad one to be like the most well-known of the series, but I don't think if I could get people to play, if I could get just like people, if someone said to me, Qatherine, I am open to playing any Dragon Quest game that you tell me to, like I will commit to playing it with an open mind, I would not say Dragon Quest VIII. I would say Dragon Quest IV, maybe Dragon Quest V, depends.
Honestly, I think that if you if you've watched this and you've played Dragon Quest VIII, maybe you like the game more than we do, because again, we like this game a lot. We just have issues. Like, it's weird. Qatherine and I disagree a lot of the details, but I feel our general opinion is the same for the game. Like, it's got a lot of problems,
I think I'm more forgiving about it than you are. Like, I think I came away, because, like, you were actually, like, really peeved at the ending, and I absolutely understand why. I don't think the game ever peeved me that much.
That is true, but I also I warmed up after the post-game stuff. Like, because I really like the Lord of the Gut Dragovians stuff as well. That's a fun thing. And I mean, I was committed enough to beat S. Stark for Memories Lane. So again, like, I don't put over 100 hours into a game I don't like, and I don't grind to level 99 in a game I don't like. And I love the ending. I love the normal ending sequence. Running away in the Dia is one of the best ending credit sequences in a Dragon Quest game to date. But I think what I would say is if you played 8 and enjoy it, I would say try 5, actually.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. I 100% agree, because 5 has is very much a story-based game that follows a cast of like very well-defined characters in a way that, you know, is somewhat similar to 8.
Yeah, it's obviously a 16-bit styled RPG. If you liked the PS2 kind of aspects to it with like the big world and the 3D environments, you're not going to get as much out of it. But...
That's where I think we're really curious to see what happens with Dragon Quest XI, because at the time of this recording, that game is like 3 months from coming out, and it looks like I'm really curious because I think they're taking a lot of aspects from Dragon Quest IV with like the fixed Dragon Quest IV, Dragon Quest VIII, and Dragon Quest III. Dragon Quest III more in the scenarios and like the certain aspects that we've seen in trailers, but you know, it's 3D, it's got an open world like Dragon Quest VIII had, and it's got the defined character roles without a class system like Dragon Quest IV and VIII had. So yeah. I'm really just hoping, like, I only know like the sort of very basic stuff about Dragon Quest XI's story, the very limited information that's out at the time of this recording. And I'm just hoping, you know, like, again, the main issues we had with this story were just like that it felt like it dropped the ball in certain parts, but when it was on point, it was on point. It was like when the emotions worked, it worked. Like the Marcello, when he was great whenever he appeared, but he just was not there for half the game. If they can pull, and
2/3, I would say.
Yeah.
And
what I'm really interested by is the fact that in the pre-release footage of Dragon Quest XI, there appears to be a non-demon, like human, sort of antagonist to the main character, the knight with the black armor and purple hair.
Yeah, and that's very rare for Dragon Quest. Like, the only really human antagonists are, like, Sorrow, he doesn't even technically count. Marcello and Terry from Dragon Quest VI are really the only ones. So
what about Robin Hood?
Okay, but yeah,
so like,
I'm super interested in it too.
If that dude, like, if that character in Dragon Quest XI is as interesting as Marcello, or even just a fraction as interesting as Marcello, and is handled better than Marcello, like that would be something. That would be something really good.
Yeah, and also one thing that I think is that a lot of issues that I think have for RPGs in the PS2 GameCube era is that a lot of them felt like they needed to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Like the PlayStation 1 RPG, you know, those are when the games started getting really big because you could have more discs and lots of stuff. But the PS2 RPG felt like it needed to go even more, and so a lot of games from that era do feel really bloated. Dragon Quest VIII, not so much as other games, but you still do feel the padding. You still feel like you have to do 5 things to get one thing done a lot of the time. And RPGs since then, on the PS3 and onward, have started to learn that it's okay to scale back a bit. Yes. So I think with the added restraint that comes from time and perspective, I think that Dragon Quest XI could potentially be something really, really special. I'm looking forward to it a lot. If we even get the game, like if we get the game and like I own a Nintendo Switch right now, the game is slated for a Nintendo Switch release, but we don't know when. If we're only going to get a PS4 release for the game, or even just PS4 and 3DS release in the United States, I would buy a PS4 for Dragon Quest XI. It looks that good. So, yeah, I'm so, like, have you seen that trailer? That trailer is one of the best I've seen for any video game in my life. Like, come on. It is the best. I'm going to watch it again and go masturbate to it. Oh, man. But,
hang up Skype first. I don't need to hear this.
You were jacking it to Marcello pictures the entire time. Don't lie.
Quietly.
I could be quiet. But anyway, yeah. So this is probably the longest discussion for Dragon Quest. Well,
this is probably the longest DQ discussion we will ever do, unless Dragon Quest XI, like, come back to us in 3 years when we've played Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah, come on, 12 months, please. Please.
Thank you, Sugiyama-san.
Oh, Sugiyama-san and your wisdom and glory. But yeah, final thoughts, good game, pretty good. I vastly disagree with the people who say that this is the best Dragon Quest, the only one worth playing. But it's still a good game. I enjoyed it.
I really, really liked it. Yeah, there were flaws. I feel like I said my final thoughts already. But yeah, I'm glad we got this port.
Yeah, I am too. I'd say gameplay wise, this is probably the best version, but I can't blame you if you want more cinematic version.
I just wish there were a definitive version of the game that didn't sacrifice anything, because
yes,
the
that
3DS
makes sense.
version sacrifices graphics and, in the case of the US, sound. Like the
there
orchestral
is a
music.
fan there. If you've modded your 3DS, there is a fan patch for the orchestral music though.
Yeah.
So and like I've been listening to orchestral Dragon Quest music for this entire discussion in the background, and damn, like it's beautiful. So it's a great game. The 3DS version is also probably pretty easy to find, so it's not a bad
too, right?
Yeah, eShop. So it's gonna be available forever. So like if you got to pick a 3DS Dragon Quest game, I'd play this over 7 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think 7 is for people. 7 is really not a game I would recommend unless someone's already played at least a couple other games in the series.
7's for hardcore fans, I think. Yeah. I would still recommend 4 and 5 and 3 over 8, but it's still a good time, I think. Yeah. So, cool. So anyway, for the future
I'm going to go Theatrhythm to... Oh, we're not done yet? I was going to go Theatrhythm to Rapthorn's final boss theme.
Well, I just want to say that you were planning on playing 6 for your next Dragon Quest game.
Yes, I need more pretty boy with white hair in my life.
Yeah, so I actually, that's going to be interesting because I've never technically beaten Dragon Quest VI. So I'm probably going to replay that too, and we might do a discussion on that. So stay tuned. But until then, it's like really late. We spent this entire weekend, like a good, a fourth of this weekend talking about Dragon Quest. We need a break, so we're gonna go to bed now. Good night.
Bye.